Hey, if you're new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me, and honestly, it'd make my day. If you already did, thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, if you like listening to fan fiction, check out my other channel. The link's in the description. Once again by Double M7. Lady Toki grants Luffy one last chance to correct his mistakes. Luffy was sent 12 years into the past in order to relive his life. Though there was a catch, he retains his 19-year-old mind and body. How will he change the world? For the better. Adios.
9 years later, it was gloomy on a particular island. As waves crashed violently against the shores of Enland. A ship known as the Thousand Sunny was docked on the northern shore, where 9 years ago, the Straw Hat Grand Armada and the Whitebeard pirates waged war. Remnants of the past remained all over the island, and yet it was all covered by thick ice that ultimately ended his life. Every year, for the past 9 years, 10 people visited the grave of their fallen captain, to honor his bravery and his undying legend. Roronoa Zoro did in fact grow to be the apprentice of Dracul Mahawk as the young swordsman finally earned his respect. He has a mastery of the sword that could compare with the world's greatest swordsman. His style was of the three swords, and his attire was a long dark green cloth along with his left eyes visibly scared. He currently laid along the hammock of the Thousand Sunny as he awaited their arrival to Enland. Nami, who's now grown into a fully grown lady, never really got over her childhood crush of the fallen captain. Her body was fully developed as she wore an orange bikini top along with blue jeans. Her weapon of choice was her weather manipulating device known as the Climatak, although if the enemy got too close thinking her main source of damage was her long-range weapon, they were gravely mistaken, as she was a master of fishman karate taught to her by numerous fish folks. It helped that one of the masters of the art was on her crew. Usopp has become a muscular warrior of the sea. His observation haki was par to none as he became one of the greatest users of observation haki. His teacher, Katakuri, would attest to this as he would say that Usopp probably surpassed him. Sanji has become a powerful warrior in his own right. He has become a master of the black leg techniques as Zeph drilled him hard on training. It paid its due dividends though, and yet he was stuck deep in thoughts. Not once did he try to flirt with the ladies of the crew for the past week. Something was up with him, but nobody was able to get anything out of him. Tony Chopper has made friends with these crazy bunch of people, and he will die for any one of them as he learned to love his little family. He has become a very strong contender as being the best doctor in the world. In fact, anyone could argue he was the best and nobody would question it. Jinbei, the warrior of the sea, was dubbed as the second strongest fishman in the entire world. He was tasked by the fallen captain to tag along with Brook in ensuring that this specific group remained safe at all times. Frankie is a mechanical genius, who was responsible in building the Thousand Sunny. He also added many improvements on the magnificent vessel, and kept it in top shape for all this year. Brook, the former 5th commander, had relegated to a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. It was in his final order to watch everyone in this group, so it was natural to stay with them. Robin, a former queen of the Straw Hat legend, did find enough poneglyphs to satiate her initial hunger for knowledge. But in their quest for the road poneglyph, disaster struck. And now, for the past 2 years, she had to live with her mistake. They all have. And lastly, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Boa Hancock. She was a former queen of the Straw Hats, now wearing the signature straw hat of the former captain. She was supposed to marry him, they were supposed to rule all the sea. But he's dead. She was here to honor the love of her life, along with the Straw Hat Pirates. What remained of the former, mighty Straw Hat Grand Armada, was now reduced to these 10 people. Their forces have scattered as not one man can hold everyone together, as that man was dead. On the eve of the new year, they visited his grave to honor him. They would pay their respect and move on once more, going on their way. This year was no different as per usual. Everyone made their peace and began to filter out. Zoro was the first to leave as he remembered the Straw Hat captain giving him a home with the people in this crew. He grew up with everyone and he would never have such an amazing growth period if he never met him. Plus he introduced him to Dracul Mahawk, the man who trained him to become the best. Usopp noticed that Zoro was leaving and swiftly chased after him. If they weren't careful, Zoro would be lost in this massive iceland. Zoro, wait up. Zoro already began walking on the opposite way to the Thousand Sunny. It was lucky that Usopp would notice these things, no matter how little of a detail it may seem. He wrapped his arms around Zoro and teased the swordsman, to which the swordsman playfully pushed him out of his way. They were brothers since the day that the captain put them together. In fact, they were all a family since the captain put them together. Usopp thanked the former captain due to catching his natural observation skills, and allowing him to master it, own it at an early age. Jinbei left shortly after, remembering all that the Straw Hat captain had done for him and his people. His undying loyalty for the man was unfathomable, as he's done so much in the short amount of time that he knew him. Jinbei began to make his way to the ship as it was time to move on. Sanji was next, as in his mind all he could think about was the burden which he would have to accept. He brought a letter from his back pocket, looked it over, and returned it back in his pocket. Sanji then threw his cigarette in the ground and stepped on it, putting the flames out. He made his way back to the ship, being the fourth to leave. In his mind, he wondered, should I do it? Chopper noticed the Sanji was down, so he hopped onto his shoulder. What's wrong? The little reindeer asked. Nothing, replied Sanji with a weak smile as he walked away with Chopper over his shoulder. The reindeer had many things to thank the Straw Hat captain, giving him access to the best medical minds in the world, but more importantly, by letting him meet these people who have become his family. Nami let a single tear escape her eyes as she reminisced her younger days. When the captain first arrived, she immediately fell head over heels for him, but he never really returned the feelings. She thanked him for bringing her the best teacher she could get and learned to defend herself in any enemy in front of her. She made her way to the ship after saying her piece. Frankie was the next person to go, as he too thanked the Straw Hat captain in giving him this family. He would have most likely lost his life if he never saved him. But now here he was, with 2 bionic arms, the chief engineer of the crew. Brook would let tears flow through his eye socket as he remembered the fallen captain. He would have rotted in the Florian Triangle if he was never saved. His adventures and friends that he made were all thanks to him, and he would never forget that. Then there were 2. As Robin and Hancock embraced one another, they have not taken a lover in the past 9 years, as their heart only belonged to one man, and that man was dead. They focused their energy on other things, such as Robin's tenacious pursuit of true history, while Hancock had become one of the strongest women in the sea, though in her mind she regretted how everyone went their separate ways. A once mighty Straw Hat Armada had split into 2 factions, the Armada and their pirate crew, though the alliance was still there. As Robin made her peace, Hancock did as well, and the 2 powerful women made their way to the ship, embracing one another, on their way to reunite with those who survived the awful defeat 2 years ago. As Hancock was leaving, with her grief filling her thoughts, she failed to notice that the straw hat which was once in her head flew away from her. Neither one of the ladies noticed that it was gone. The straw hat flew for some time, finally landing on the floor of the frigid wasteland. It must have been an hour when the Straw Hat pirates had left the land when a massive galleon arrived, crashing through the shores of Enland. The flag of the ship was that of the fam, red-haired Shanks. He jumped over his ship and landed on the wasteland, his eye gleaming a certain way. 9 years, he had been waiting. Ah yes. Well, if you wish to join us for the rest of the meeting, you are more than welcome to do so. King Neptune replied, although still a bit shocked. I'm okay, King Neptune. Thank you. He then looked at Shanks, who seemed to be in awe at his boldness. When can we leave? Actually, that was another thing I wanted to talk to you about. Now that this is all out there, I can't take you to Whole Cake Island. I have some unfinished business I need to attend to. But Fisher Tiger has offered to take you there instead. Chapter 6. Red-haired. The room suddenly got cold and Shanks stopped in his footsteps. Vice Admiral Kuzan greeted Shanks with the same tone. Admiral Iokiji to you, pirate. People in the surveillance room had been watching the entire exchange through some visual den mushi. Though suddenly their feed got interrupted as all they could see was an empty screen. 5 seconds. Kuzan walked beside Shanks and whispered. He's not supposed to be here yet, take care of it. Okay. Kuzan immediately deactivated his abilities, returning everything to normal. Chapter 16. And so per his request, along with the perfect timing and execution, they were able to take care of it. Shanks blocked the way of Admiral Akainu and Admiral Zephyr. and he allowed a small ship that carried Kuzan to get through. He let Kuzan do what he needed to do. He let this whole thing happen, but it had to be done, it had to. Now Shanks transversed the distance, knowing full well where he would be. Amazing how time did not put a dent in Kuzan's ice as it remained as solid as it was the day it was set. Shanks sat on an ice-shaped stool, curious that there was one there, but he was more than happy to take it. He brought a large bag with him, filled with different meat and drinks. Now all he could really do was wait, as this was supposed to be the time. Another hour passed until finally something happened. As the ice encasement began to shift, cracks began to form from all over the land. It would only be a few minutes before the ground trembled and the ice shattered into 1,000 pieces. The entirety of Enland, which has been covered in ice for 9 years, began to melt the ice away. On the tail end of the melting process, there came a loud gasp for air. "Gah!" exclaimed a jet-haired young man. Shanks approached the man slowly, though he had to quickly avoid an oncoming punch, much quicker than he anticipated. The punch managed to graze him over his right cheek. Though instead of being angry, he had a smile over his face. A Straw Hat Man will have ice fill his veins as he will die from this very world. Chapter 27. Suddenly, something triggered in Luffy's head. His despair was replaced by hope, even just slightly. By you being here. How do you know the exact time? Well, it was in Kuzan's words. He was a man out of time and he needed to return to the time in which he traveled from. So therefore, Mugiwara's final will. "Hey guys. Sorry I died," began Luffy, although he had a smile throughout the whole time. "I have been granted a last will before I died, so let me begin with Katakuri. Am I deserving of your service, Mihawk? I'm sorry, but looks like I died." "Alive, stay that way, Lucci. I hope you find who you are looking for." Everyone, who would have thought Arlong and Brûlé would be a thing? "Be it as it may, Brook, I'm sorry buddy. Back then, Crocodile, I hated you. But you better not start a new crime syndicate, you hear? Real knows real, guild. Make sure to keep doing honest work and earning honest money. Soon, Haruden, you will achieve your dream of reinstating the giant pirates. In spite of the current situation, Moria, we are your family. 9 times out of 9, I would pick you Buggy. It took you years Enel to discover what it meant to have a family. Hey, I am alive everyone, be back real soon, in 9 years. You still have the same fire, I see." Shanks crouched over the struggling figure of a certain raven-haired warrior who hasn't moved his body in literally 9 years. Shanks. He managed to cough up weakly. He recognized that voice as that was his hero. "You betrayed me." The young man could barely move, he could barely speak, and Shanks tossed the bag full of food. The contents spilled over, to which the eyes of the young man lit up. He then started slowly, chewing delicately to a small piece of pork chop. Then he moved on to a drumstick, then into a steak. Until finally, the young man was scarfing down the food and drink. He was replenishing his body, seemingly catching up for all the lost time. His seemingly frail body had now become muscular once more, as the nutrients were filling in his depleted muscle. After consuming the entire amount of food that Shanks had brought him, he took a deep breath. Shanks let him digest his food before finally answering his initial accusation. "I'm sorry, Luffy. But by time traveling into the past, in your age that you were, you've messed up the timeline. Some good things came out of it, but mostly bad." "Where am I? What year is it?" Luffy immediately noticed the more rough look of the Emperor. "Enland. 1524. Answered Shanks. Both of his arms were still there, so there was really something good with his time travel. But still, he failed to understand why he had to be frozen for 9 freaking years. "What happened? What happened to everyone?" asked Luffy, finally awake from his long slumber. He was truly worried about his people, what happened to them. Though especially, Hancock, Robin, and Viola. "As far as your people goes, you'll learn soon enough. But the big picture here is that there are 6. I mean 5 emperors that roam these seas, 6 admirals are on top of the marines, and the warlord system remains at 7. Who are the warlords, admirals, and emperors? Asked Luffy. He was sure Katakuri would be one of them. He'd put all of Guild's money in it. Kuma is the only remaining of the warlord of your time. He is now 90% cyborg with only 10% of his personality left. His paw fruit is still a killer though. I hate to see him in battle as he is a pretty strong guy. Without Kuma going against order and separating the Straw Hats to safety, he was never turned into a mindless machine and used as a slave. Weevil is one of the 7 warlords. He made it his mission to single-handedly hunt down members of the Whitebeard. The slimy bastard is able to avert Whitebeard's hunting party or single-handedly defeat them. Luffy didn't speak as all he really did was listen. He let Shanks go on and list the 7 warlords. As far as Weevil, no surprise there. He wondered if Whitebeard really was the father to that twerp. Orlumbus is a powerful New World pirate who managed to accumulate a fighting force of 8,000 men, all under his flag. He took the deal with the Marines as his goal in life is to explore all corners of the seas. The fighting explorer has earned his star as one of the warlords of the sea. Who would have thought that one of his former fleet members would rise to the occasion? Orlumbus was of course a powerful pirate in his own right. But how different is he to be a warlord in this timeline? Foxy, began Shanks, to which Luffy raised his eyebrows. The same guy who tricked people in stealing their crew members. How did that idiot become a warlord? Is a powerful paramecia whose abilities are mysterious in nature. I never really met the guy, but I think he has the Noro fruit that allows him to slow anybody's momentum for as long as he wants. Oh, the guy actually used his devil fruit to its full potential. Maybe he wasn't an idiot after all. Alvida. Okay, this was getting stupid. Alvida, the giant mace-wielding lady who'd tortured Kobe for all his young life. How the hell did she? Her abilities have started a legend that nobody has injured her in years. Plus, to earn her spot, she put your guy, Buggy. I noticed a change in tone from Shanks when mentioning Impelled Down. What was that all about? But Buggy being there was an issue. Looks like you would have to go back and get him. Law has earned his spot as one of the warlords of the sea. He has used his position to target evil pirates and put them in prison. He was also a warlord of the sea during his timeline. But why would he join them if the Armada was still a thing? Law always had his own ambitions. If Doflamingo was dead, why did he join the Marines as a warlord? The last member of the warlords is your brother, Ace. At this, Luffy couldn't believe what was being said. Ace became a warlord, exclaimed Luffy. Yeah, Firefist took the position. Did you know the guy? Marineford, I'm glad you all decided to show up. On the helm of the meeting, current Fleet Admiral Sengoku addressed the warlords of the sea. Besides Sengoku, sat Vice Admiral Garp. His gaze was focused on one particular flame user in the room. Go on with it then, Foxy said restlessly. The captain of the Foxy Pirates attended the important meeting when he could have been out there, stealing members from other pirate crews. He hasn't failed in doing so either. Shut your face, Foxy, or I'll do it for you, threatened Garp as the disrespectful warlord was as mouthy as ever. Bah, whatever, old man, responded Foxy, but he quieted down. Kuma remained his cybernetic self, looking into the distance with a blank look, one arm around his Bible. Why is Alvida here with idiots anyway? Alvida, the lone female warlord, asked. She referred to herself in third person because that's just the way she is. She didn't really care as she was busy looking at her smooth skin through a mirror. She was the fairest. Anyone who disagreed met the end of her sea prism mace. In all of her years rising to her status, she has yet to obtain an injury, making her seemingly invincible. That is no way to talk for a lady, commented Orlumbus. The fleet commander has earned his spot for overwhelming enemy pirates with his massive fighting force. Though he was no pushover either, as his power was well known throughout all the seas. Law scoffed at the behavior of his fellow warlords. He didn't look an age older than 21, which was peculiar in its own way. Weevil was not present for the meeting, as he never was, though his mother put in that they will be there for the execution. Of who exactly? Then there was Ace, who stared right back at Garp. If looks could kill, they would both be dead. Ahem. Well, I have summoned you all here today because of something coming up in a month's time. We require your presence at Marineford due to a high-profile execution. We will use this spectacle to bring some dangerous people out of the shadow. More notably Whitebeard and Big Mom, as well as the remnants of the Straw Hat Armada. Count me in, said Foxy before first standing up. If it was just that, you could have sent a letter, said the warlord in a snotty tune. He then walked out from the meeting, his confidence oozing. The fleet admiral and vice admiral wanted to punch the snot out of Foxy's face, but they needed his particular talent, especially for what was coming. Alvida will attend. With that, Alvida left as well. Orlumbus nodded his head, signifying that he will be present for the execution, and he left too. Trafalgar, you're with us, right? Warned Sengoku, as Law had previous affiliation with the prisoner up for execution. Yeah, why wouldn't I be? Replied Law coolly as he got up, outstretched his hands and left the area with style. He activated his room and switched places with a loaf of bread aboard his submarine. Miles from the meeting area. Ace, asked Garp through his teeth. The old man was still sour that he chose the pirate life instead of becoming a marine. Fire Fist, your answer? Akainu, Zephyr, Aokiji, Kizaru, Fujitora, Ryukugayu. Sengoku, Garp, nor 5 elder stars. Doesn't matter who did it. I'm only here for one thing and you both know it. I'm gonna learn who ordered my mother to be killed. And I will kill them with my own hands. If I have to play for your politics, so be it. They didn't know, thought Ace. All they knew was he was after his mother's killer. But really, he was Roger's son. Garp knew, but Sengoku did not. The fire logia disappeared in a whirlwind of flame pillar, damaging the meeting area. Enland Luffy tried to process the information dump that Shanks was giving. It was so much at one time. The Admiral were now 6 in numbers. Akainu, Zephyr, Aokiji, Kizaru, Fujitora and Ryukugayu. Well, as far as emperors go, I am one of the 6 emperors of the sea, as you already know. It's been bad, Luffy. Everyone is fighting for territory and a play for the One Piece. Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin, still holds her massive information network. She's still marrying people into her family to solidify some alliances. In fact, I believe a marriage is coming up in a few months with one of her daughters. Fuck, did the Germa get invited to join the Big Mom pirates again, which means Sanji. Kaido remains a beast, having a firm grasp at Wano. Last time I heard any news from there seems to be trouble brewing between the Shogun and some time travelers. It couldn't be you since you've been dead. Oh no, another problem. Momo and everyone have been trusted forward by Lady Toki. This was the time they were transported, and that traitorous bastard, he needs to take care of him. 4 years ago, Blackbeard became an addition to the rank as he successfully broke into Impel Down and took many level 6 prisoners with him. He posed as a warlord and broke powerful people out of the hellish prison. That bastard needed to die. Fuck, so Lucci failed to kill him back then. Whitebeard is still an emperor since you helped him return in his prime. Like I said, the warlord is after his legacy, so he's been searching for Weevil. But other than that, he has been quiet lately ever since the capture of your guy, Katakuri. Wait, Katakuri was captured? Is he working for Whitebeard? He couldn't help it anymore as this was crazy stuff that he was hearing. Dogtooth is actually 2 years ago now. A former Yonko of the sea. To this Luffy smiled, so he did it, huh? He knew he could, but what happened? He took over your Grand Armada and ran with it. The reason he was a former Yonko is because he got caught, went into Big Mom's territory to challenge for her road poneglyphs and lost. Half of your former Armada is currently locked in Impel Down. Execution date is in a month, and the Marines are calling all their forces in Marineford, expecting the Whitebeard pirates to retaliate as they are currently allied. God damn it, it was happening no matter what. Someone was going to be executed, this time his most trusted commander and friend. Most of his armada was locked away and he did not know who was available. No matter what, he had to break out Katakuri and his people from Impel Down, even if he had to storm through the front door of the prison by himself. Shanks noticed that he was deep on thoughts as it was a lot of information. Luffy, listen. I had you frozen in time because you are the promised one. The one who will put an end to these ridiculous political games and suffering. Back in Dawn Island, I was ready to sacrifice an arm for you because I knew you were the one. But Lady Toki sent you back because you failed the first time. I thought about it for a long time and I knew that would be her only reason to do it. My captain, Roger, was too early for the One Piece and he wished he wasn't. So Luffy, to simply put it, you would have been too soon to fulfill your destiny. This is why I did what I did. Luffy remained pensive, looking out in the distance. It made sense, but he hated the idea that it affected him so much. Why him? Why can't fucking Shanks be the chosen one? Shanks got up and asked. Did you need a ride somewhere? Like good old times? He attempted to lighten the mood. But Luffy was pissed beyond words. Damn, why does time travel have to be so damn complicated? I'm fine, good to be alone. Shanks tried to say something, but no words came out. He respected the request of the time traveler and moved on. He began to walk away, until he made it to his ship. He looked back for the last time before giving the order to depart. If he thought he knew Luffy, then he had to be somewhere. As the mind of the young man was mostly predictable, he would die for his friends. Luffy was walking aimlessly around Enland. The ice was mostly melted around the island, but Luffy did not really care for that. His mind was still in a mess as he could not process that he now went forward in time, back to his normal time, but everything was fucked up. The very first thing he needed to do was save Katakuri. There was no way he'll let him die. The execution was in a month, but he would be found and impelled down. Did he want to go in there to try and avoid a major war? Hell yeah. Then he had to figure everything out as he went. From the reason why Ace is a warlord, to taking care of Sanji's family issues, and of course the other time travelers. In other words, he needed to challenge the Marine for his crew, kill Big Mom, Kaido, and lastly Blackbeard. Somewhere in the middle, he'll kill the Celestial Dragons somehow. Oh, those fucker in the underground world also. Yeah, solid plan. Now he needed his manpower back. Luffy was deep in his thoughts, walking aimlessly around Enland. He was planning his next course of action when suddenly, he stumbled upon a straw hat, the same one that belonged to him. Huh? Said Luffy out loud. He curiously picked it up and looked it over. Then his senses suddenly heightened at a certain smell belonging to one particular lady. Had she been keeping it all this time? How did it get here? That belongs to me, said a voice from behind him. He immediately became stiff as that voice sounded very familiar. His heart began to jump out of his chest as he slowly turned around. And sure enough, there she was, looking as stunning as the first day he fell in love with her. Hancock, Luffy said slowly. He didn't know how she would take the news that he had returned. For all the world knows, he died 9 years ago. Tears welled up in Hancock's eyes as she saw his face. Was it happiness? Grief? He liked to think so. Her form became weak as she nearly collapsed. He was going to run and catch her before she fell, though she caught herself and wiped her tears. He wished he could go to her and hug her. He should just do it right. So he did, slowly walking towards her. Not once did his eyes leave hers. It was still there, the desire, and yet as he got close, her eyes became angry and her right foot was brought up and met him square on the face. Luffy was sent right on the ground, the impact creating a crater on the floor. What? His body remained durable as ever. His amazing metabolism and recovery factor was a marvel. You fucking imposter. How dare you mess with my emotion, exclaimed Hancock as she attempted to follow up her strike with another leg drop. Although Luffy rolled away in time, of course, she didn't know it was really him. God, she was hot when she was angry. A pink humanoid figure shot out of Hancock as she activated her secret awakening. Medusa escaped her body, complete with a spear and an orb. Luffy beamed up at realizing that she finally mastered her ability. You finally did it, he exclaimed in happiness, despite being in massive pain from receiving her kicks. It was too late, as Hancock was seething in anger. She looked into who she thought was an imposter and activated her ability. Luffy loves Hancock to death. Her amazing nature, looks, her talents, perfect goddess-like figure. So of course he lusted for her. Especially after 9 years in the ice, he could not wait to tear into her. But it became his undoing, as Luffy was instantly turned into stone, not another word out of his mouth. Medusa was going to shatter the Luffy statue into a million pieces until finally Hancock realized something. Hancock's eyes widened as she processed what he said. Only Luffy would know of her awakening, how hard she trained for it. His voice was that of someone proud of another person. Then she finally realized, as tears welled through her eyes, that this was truly her one and only. Luffy, the stone encasement crumbled, Medusa melting into the ground in a pink goo. And Luffy coming out with a massive smile over his face. Hey, it's been a while. And just like that, Luffy was swallowed with an embrace so tight, he could feel their heart connect once more. No love lost between the two. For this moment he forgot all his worries, planning, and lost time. For this moment all that mattered was the woman in his arms. Enland? Well, I'll be damned. Their tight embrace was interrupted for a moment, though Luffy kept Hancock close. For on top of the hill, a one-eyed swordsman stared directly down at him. It didn't take long before the rest of the Straw Hats surrounded him. Everyone was here. Sanji, Nami, Jinbei, Brook, Chopper, Frankie, Usopp, Zoro, and there she was, his one and only, Robin. Though the first to truly run to him was surprisingly Nami, who seemingly ran to embrace him. Her assets were in full display as she quickly covered the ground between them. She didn't run to him to hug him, she ran to him to quickly grab the woman in his arm, Hancock. Oh shit, they think he is the enemy. Smart. Once Nami grabbed Hancock, Robin encased the duo in a hand shield. Luffy looked at this in confusion, but he could no longer see them as a pillar of ocean water escaping from the earth and separated Luffy from them. Thank you, Jinbei. Before he could really do anything, an angry Brook was mere inches from cutting his head off. Luckily his godlike reflexes were still there. He was able to duck down on time as his chilling blade was near his face. Though the rest of the Straw Hats was not done yet as a superheated Diable Hambi fell from the sky, the meteoric downfall of the chef was avoided by Luffy sidestepping. Good thing he did too, because he would have been barbecue underneath the flaming dropkick. They have become so strong in the time that he's been gone. Zoro zoomed through the flaming impact that was missed by Sanji, bringing out his two-blade technique. Luffy had to activate armament. Lucky he still had it or he would have been chopped liver. The blade made an impact with his armament guard and pushed him several steps back. His blade sparked in collision with Luffy's arm and the green-haired swordsman raised an eyebrow. You're strong, imposter, Zoro smirked as he ducked. Chopper came running through with horn point. His face was plastered with anger as he could now believe his hero was being insulted like this. Luffy caught the horn with both hands. Damn, he was strong. But Luffy was able to hold him steady, though their combination wasn't done yet. Frankie had his arms extended. A particle beam was aimed at the face of who he thought was a fake. When did Frankie become such a technological beast? Did he become a better inventor in this timeline? Luffy tossed Chopper to the side so as to not let Chopper get hit. Chopper took note of the imposter protecting him. Huh? The particle beam hit Luffy straight to the face, and sent him several yards back. As the smoke cleared, his body was covered in armament. But the Straw Hats were not going to let him go easy. A pellet flew by his head, missing him. But it was purposely launched by Usopp as the pellet expanded into a vine trap, entangling with his limbs. Luffy got free with his legs, but a set of hands held him down, courtesy of Robin. Then for the combo of the Straw Hats to end, Nami raised her climatic in the air, unleashing a flurry of black lightning through the body of Luffy. He couldn't believe that lightning was actually hurting him. This alternate form of lightning had to have come from Enel. As the smoke cleared, Luffy found himself surrounded, with Brook having his blade at the throat of Luffy, cold air emitting from the tip of his blade. Zoro and Sanji stood on standby beside Brook, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Jinbei and Frankie were behind him. Both men were ready to strike as well, but they wouldn't get a chance to do so as Hancock broke from Nami's embrace and made a break for her love. Luffy had a smile on his face as he was going to get a little serious, though Hancock got in between Brook's blade and Luffy. "Captain?" asked Brook, although retrieving his blade from nearly piercing her. Hancock's eyes were unwavering. "I'm not your captain." She turned and looked at Luffy, immediately accepting him as the rightful captain of the pirate crew. She was a powerful woman of the sea, feared by all life, and yet there was something about him that made her tremble, weak, excited. "He is your true captain. Monkey D. Luffy." To this a collective gasp, a moment to process, and finally realized that this was truly the one and only. Sanji's mouth hung agape as the cigarette fell out. He fell on both knees with tears welling up in his eyes. Chopper began to cry furiously at the revelation, and Frankie quickly embraced him. He could not believe what was happening as his eyes hung wide open. Brook collapsed on the ground, falling on both knees in a similar fashion as Sanji. Zoro fell flat on his ass, grabbing his hair at the shock of what was happening. Usopp passed out, falling face first into the ground, with Jinbei catching him before he fell. Jinbei held Usopp and gently placed him on the ground. He maintained his posture and looked at the legend in confusion. Nami had tears flowing from her eyes as she embraced Hancock, for Robin slowly made her way to him. At first she looked him over, not believing it was really him. She then caressed his cheeks slowly. An audible gasp could be heard from Robin as electricity coursed through her body. It was truly him, and when one loves another, she could feel it. Luffy didn't really know what to expect. Was she going to hug him, kiss him, punch him? Then, a loud smack over his cheeks as her palm went straight to his face. Luffy was shocked, and yet he wasn't given any time to react as she grabbed his face and brought him in, giving him a passionate kiss. He felt her pain and suffering for the many years they've been separated. This kiss deepened by the minute, and the group replaced their disbelief with glee. Their lips parted for a moment. It was then that Hancock joined them, as the trio were entangled in an embrace, one arm for each lady. Sanji finally got up, a smile over his face. Frankie raised Chopper over his head and Brook stood beside them. Jinbei and Zoro shared a smile and Usopp ruffled Nami's hair. This truly was Straw Hat Luffy. Their sweet moment ended after a while and Luffy addressed the elephant in the room. For right then in Enland, Mugiwara was reborn once more. "I can't tell you how I'm still alive. So what happened since disappearing?" asked Luffy, to which the group had a change in mood once more. For the arrival of the captain was a list of horrible news that they would have to reveal to him. Some good, mostly bad. Captain. I'm glad you've come back. Let me begin with telling you about what happened after you well died. Usopp began for the group. He was much more confident than before. Commander Enel swore revenge on Admiral Aokiji and blindly went after him. Commander Enel lost and was sent to Impel Down as a result of his anger. He's been there for 9 years. He owed the Thunderman some sake for his valiant effort. But Kuzan was no joke. Jinbei took over and continued the story. "Captain, you are as young as the day I remembered you." The following year, the reverie occurred where Commander Lucci was in attendance along with Queen Viola. First, the positive, Fishman Island officially declared their journey to the surface, which was approved by 80% of the council. But in a negative light, the king of the Drum Kingdom made a play to start a war with Alabasta by striking Princess Vivi. The princess did not honor King Waipal's attempt to start a war by not giving him a reaction. Commander Lucci waited for the end of the reverie, and killed Wapol before he could return home. He took the insult personally as Princess Vivi was your betrothed. Well is still now that you are alive. And waited for home. Ever since then, Commander Lucci has been missing no contact. Although the Armada had been getting occasional help from the Shadow and we think it is him. Holy shit, catching up for lost time was insane. Lucci killed Jinbei then stepped back, where Zoro took over. As per your request, Captain, Katakuri took over and expanded the crew even further. We obtained prominent fighters, solidified the alliance with Whitebeard, but also some left the crew to start their own. Ode of information, you guys. Let's take a break for now, fill me in later. So tell me, did you all join the Grand Armada? Luffy wanted a break from the information of what he missed. Of course he brought in Robin, Frankie, and Brook. But the younger ones? We all joined 2 years ago, Captain. Answer Sanji for the group, a fresh cigarette in his mouth. Sorry, Captain, we were there when Commander Katakuri fell at the hands of Big Mom. Commented Chopper as he hung over the head of Frankie. We were so close at her road poneglyphs, I was sure we could do it. Robin said from beside him. Strangely enough, she removed his arms from around her waist. We would have it, but her forces were too strong and we lacked the manpower. The fall of Commander Katakuri caused a downhill in our morale. It was Hancock's turn to speak. Hancock did the same. Half of the forces were sent to Impel Down, hand-delivered by the Big Mom pirates. Only half got away, added Frankie. Alright, okay. Listen up, everyone. We're going to break out everyone from Impel Down before a major war begins. In order to do this, I need to rally our forces, and I need to get in touch with Whitebeard and Shanks. His tone was venomous for the last name that he said. He finally let the freezing debacle sink in, and fucking Shanks decided for him, without consulting him. Everyone smiled at his order, almost intoxicating how his confidence made them more confident in the seemingly deathly mission. Aye, Captain. The journey to our HQ will take a couple of hours, a day at most. Where is HQ? To this Frankie and Jinbei smiled in unison. Hachinosu Island. Ah. A mighty roar of pain escaped from the mouth of one Haruden as a spike slowly went through his hands. Zihahaha. "Want to talk now, giant?" A bearded man which wore a black and gold captain's coat, along with pistols along his belt. He stood in the eyes of the island's unique skull. Haruden was held up by a darkness spike, making him float mid-air, his eyes lined up where Teach was standing. "Fuck you, Teach," said Haruden, though that wasn't smart as around him. His crew yelled in pain as they were repeatedly tortured by the Yonko. Teach had surrounded the island with the bodies of the giant, nailed to a post with his darkness. The giant pirates were defeated and ultimately humiliated in Blackbeard's island, though they were blindfolded the entire journey so they wouldn't know how to get there. "Anytime now, giant, I need information." Teach phased back and forth, as the scream of his crewmates rang in the air. From Dory and Brogy, to new additions such as Gerd, Stanson, Rode, Goldberg, and Lily and Stomach. "Fine, damn it, stop." Haruden had a down look on his face as he would regret providing this information. He had to stop the suffering of his friends. Blackbeard smiled sadistically, stopping his torture of the giants. "Well, they are not going to allow Commander Katakuri to die, no matter what. I don't know the plan," said Haruden regretfully. Good, said Teach with a massive smile over his face. Though he never really planned to leave them off easy. He then activated his power once more as the screams of the giant pirates filled the air. It was like music in his ears. Teach went inside his office quarters where his commanders were located. In the room were his 10 Titanic captains, where the majority of them came from impelled down. How long has it been? 4 years. Yeah. In the room were Jesus Burgess, Shuryu, of the Ron, Van Auger, Avalo Pizarro, Lafitte, Katarina Devon, Vasco Schott, and Doc Q. Outside looking in was Sun Yuan Wolf. Oh, and the 10th member of the 10 Titanic captains was none other than Gecko Moria. "Who's ready to get their hands dirty? What's going on, boss?" asked Burgess. "In a month's time, Dogtooth is going to be executed. Whitebeard and Big Mom will be there. The remaining Straw Hats will be there also. At last we will go as well, making it a 5-way tango." "Good plan, but I still think I should be the captain," exclaimed Avalo Pizarro. No, the captain is perfect. He is an emperor of the sea," proclaimed Katarina Devon. The group cheered, but Moria was quiet, staring outside the window at some event that was transpiring. "What's wrong, Moria? Not turning your belly on me, are you?" Teach noted the reaction of the former Straw Hat pirate. "Look outside." Moria pointed, to which everyone did so. Across the island, the crew found that one of the giants had escaped. Her bindings were somehow loosened. "That's the post of the end-stomach girl, the one that shrinks," Jesus Burgess noted. "How the hell did she get free?" asked Shiryu, his eyes traveling to Moria, who continued to stare outside. He sensed that the group was looking at him. "What? I was with him the whole time," replied Moria, pointing at Burgess. It was true, so they moved on from blaming it on Moria. "It had to be San Juan. That stupid idiot must have not tightened her bindings," suggested Katarina Devon. "Hey San Juan, you big doofus, you missed the binding," exclaimed Jesus Burgess to San Juan, who looked at him with confusion. "Huh?" Though in Moria's head, he replayed the event not even an hour before their meeting. "So I had that little punk right in between my arm and choked the living shit out of him. Wee ha 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 ha." Though Burgess loved to talk about himself so much that Moria could sneak away from him for a moment, substituting himself with a shadow clone. In Moria's mind, Burgess would continue to talk and his clone would continue to actively listen. So Moria disappeared in his own shadow and appeared in the shadow of Haruden's head. Moria manifested beside his ears. "Hey Haruden, I'm getting you free," whispered Moria, to which the giant heard loud and clear. Haruden didn't move his head but said, "Not me. Lily." To this Moria had a confused look. "Why? Faster." Haruden did his best to not move his mouth. But Lily would be the best person to free, as she had a very useful devil fruit to escape. "Ah." To this Moria was halfway into the shadow when he said, "I'll find a way to get you all free. I swear it." And Moria appeared next to Lily, freeing her of her bindings. "Do not leave until exactly an hour from now. Count to 3,600. And with that Moria traveled the distance from where he was, to where his shadow was, taking its place. "You think I beat him, huh?" Perfect timing, as he returned in the rare time that Burgess actually asked for input. Sure. And Burgess went on and on once more. So Lily did as she was asked and shrunk her size and made way for the dock. She had been long gone when the Blackbeard pirates discovered her. Thousand Sunny Luffy took a few hours to look through his ship, finding that the Straw Hats have made it into their personality. He missed so much time, he needed to catch up with everyone. Though more importantly, he needed to know where he stood with them, his former queens. Luffy stood outside Robin's door, in a strange way. It was like how she stood outside his door all those time ago. Should he knock, call out? Maybe do, but he wouldn't need to answer his many questions to himself, as Robin herself opened her door. She was visibly a shade of red, her breath was hot at the initial meeting. Yes, Captain. The way she said it was cold, almost like she did not forgive him for being gone for 9 years. He did not forgive himself for that either. Hi, I just wanted to say. How are you? Stuttering for his words was a new look for him. He was so used to being calm and collected, in control. Why does she make him this way? I'm good, thanks. It was so simple, her answer. She could not be more obvious. So Luffy knew to take a hint, so he rubbed his hands together awkwardly and smiled at her. Then, as he had nothing more to say. Maybe the kiss at the dock was just a result of the time they've been separated and nothing more. Well, good night then. He thought about going in for a kiss, but that would have been weird bearing the circumstances. Night, was her simple response and shut the door on his face. Thahor, Nico Robin leaned against her door, and slid down on it, tears flowing from her eyes. Why did this have to be so difficult? So Luffy aimlessly walked around the Thousand Sunny, his heart dejected from the events that occurred. Oi Captain. Somehow, Luffy ended up in the kitchen, where Sanji was busy making a feast for the returning Luffy. Of course his appetite was legendary, so therefore he cooked up as much food as he could for his return. Hey Sanji. Luffy said with a smile, admiring the tower of food that he created. Though Sanji took note of his lingering pain over his eyes. What's up Captain? Down under the weather? The crafty chef noted. Though Luffy found that his eyes were missing its glint as well. It must have been the forced wedding. Yeah, I suppose. Hey, do you know if anyone in the crew is in a relationship? Of course he was asking about the ladies. Sanji knew he would. Oh, well, Usopp and Kaya are a thing. Very cute couple too. Aw, that's good to hear. So Usopp really did have more confidence and the fighting prowess to back it up. Mosshead and his swords are in a weird foursome of sorts. Luffy chuckled at this. Of course Sanji still had friendly animosity with Zoro. A natural rivalry if he could say so himself. And that's about it. Luffy's ears perked up at this. Where was Robin and Hancock? Nami, and no Captain. Our 3 ladies in this crew are not in a relationship. Nami has the biggest crush on you and never looked at another man. She focused on herself and her own growth and that she never took a relationship with another man. Captain. I mean Hancock now, I suppose, since you ate the captain. Focused on keeping grasp of your legacy that I guess she never got a chance to find another, or even wanted to. And Robin tried and failed many times, never finding love with any other man. They all never got over you really. To this Luffy's frown was replaced with a massive smile. He then jumped up and made way for Robin's room once more. But before exiting, he said to Sanji. Don't worry about the tea party, we'll tell Big Mom to fuck off. To this Luffy disappeared in a cloud of dust. Sanji looked on in confusion. He never told him about the letter. So Luffy once again stood outside of Robin's room, this time with more confidence than the last. She had been waiting for him for so long that she did not know how to respond. Once more he stood outside her door, and once more she was ready to open it. Yes. Her tone was cold, but Luffy knew better. He swiftly grabbed her by the waist and pulled her close. She was shocked but let him take the lead. Luffy leaned in slowly for a kiss but lingered over her lips. Her hot breath hit him but he made her wait just a little bit longer. Would you like me to continue? He teased, to which she wanted to say no, to punish him for disappearing. She knew it wasn't his fault, but she thought he deserved to feel the pain she experienced for all the time lost. And yet, his gaze was mesmerizing, as if not a minute was lost. His familiar touch, his loving embrace, his intoxicating smell. It was euphoric and she could not resist anymore. She melted in his arms and lusted for his lips. So she leaned in, sealing the kiss between them. And this time, it was more passionate, more hungry. Robin finally felt the rush again. She hasn't been with anyone who particularly kept her interest, as a relationship here, and there didn't get further than one kiss. She longed for this. The man who tamed her, who pulled her in, and loved her to the end of the world and back. She melted along his kiss, and his tongue began to explore her, going deep into her mouth. She moaned as the kiss deepened as the two lovers slowly made their way to her bed. He held her closed as he let her know his hunger, to make her feel love once more, the feeling which she had forgotten for many years. It was like he was making up for lost time, and there was a lot of time to make up. Luffy could not wait any longer as he slowly removed her night attire. Her silky robe fell from her shoulders, revealing her fair skin. She trembled at his gaze, as it had been so long since a man gazed upon her bare body. "Luffy, please don't make me wait," she nearly cried at the thought of his touch once more. So Luffy did as his lady asked and pulled out his member. Her eyes widened, remembering the feeling of it, but she did not have to imagine any longer. She did not have to touch herself at night and imagine him on top of her. For he was really here, in front of her. Luffy gently placed her on the bed, and she was gasping in anticipation, until finally, without further delay, he entered her. The initial thrust was indescribable. No word can explain it. She yelped in pleasure as from entrance to when he hit her womb. Robin trembled. She came at this as an immediate response from being without sex for so long. Then Luffy continued, thrusting back and forth, with each motion causing her senses to reach 1,000. She trembled, and tried to push him away as she could not handle it any longer, but he held her down, forcing her to enjoy herself. She had to keep up an image of a strong woman who didn't need anyone. But she needed him, and her body responded as such. She tried to be quiet, tried to hold her pleasure, but she could no longer, screaming at the top of her lungs as he continued to pound her. "Ah, oh God!" she moaned as he wouldn't let her miss a moment. He then carried her up, giving her a new set of stimulation. It wasn't just for him, it was for her also. Both lovers felt a massive amount of pleasure. Robin was soaking while Luffy was near his peak. He was going to explode, and Robin wanted all of it. So she pushed away from him, positioned herself between his legs. She began to eagerly eat him, fitting as much into her mouth as she could. He couldn't hold it anymore, as thick sticky substance escaped him. She eagerly continued to bob her head, inviting him to as much as he could. Until finally, Luffy was done. He looked into Robin's face as she had a satisfied smile on her face. She then swallowed with some escaping her mouth. She gave Luffy a seductive smile and decided to tease him further. She made her way to her bathroom, where she waved her hips invitingly. Luffy followed closely, and the duo went at it again. Her moans of pleasure could be heard all throughout the Sunny. Hancock wanted her chance with him, but she let Robin have it tonight. For Hancock was spread eagle in her own bed. Feverishly touching herself at thought of Luffy filled her imagination, reuniting with him once again. Straw Hat HQ Dawn Island. The Straw Hat Pirates arrived at the HQ, and Luffy couldn't believe it. It was his home island. How? He looked at Zoro. To honor your life, and to keep a low profile. Luffy had a smile throughout their entire walk through the village. Not one person recognized him, but greeted the rest of the Straw Hats with kindness. He looked back and found that Sunny sank underwater. He was shocked, but Frankie caught his stare. "Don't worry, Captain. Sunny is going to the Super HQ. We had to build into a mountain and underground. You'll see." Luffy let it go for now. Deep in his mind was the thought of who would be in the base, and who will be in impelled down. He didn't want to know from his crew, he wanted to see for himself. The Straw Hats were now in front of a mountain. It seemed to be a normal mountain formation, but Usopp pressed a button from his jacket pocket, and the sound of mechanical gears began to turn. Suddenly a golden metal entranceway opened from the belly of the mountain. Everyone seemed to be used to it, but he wasn't, and he was impressed. "Wow," was all he could say as he stopped to admire the machination. Hancock took his hands and pulled him forward as they went into the base. "Straw Hats are back," exclaimed someone from the base. Zoro greeted everyone and disappeared. Sanji went a different way, and Chopper did as well. Usopp, a blonde-haired beauty, ran towards the expert sniper, planting a firm kiss over his lips. The two Theo which Sanji and Zoro shared a grossed-out look. "Frankie bro, I got some stuff I need you to check." This time a gas human floated beside Frankie and pulled him somewhere. "That's Caesar, one of the recruits you asked us to get." It was Hancock filling him in. "There is Kuro, another recruit. He's been a welcomed addition as his strategies are top-notched. Black Cat, Kuro went to Brook and Jinbei's side. The commander is requesting for your presence, Sir Jinbei, Sir Brook, Madam Hancock. And they followed him somewhere as well. Probably going to strategy. We are trying to plan the best way to rescue our comrades. We'll go there first. They continued forward following the direction that Jinbei, Brook, and Kuro went. Not once has Luffy been recognized yet. He wore his straw hat but nobody really paid attention. Robin and Nami ran off somewhere, but not before Robin planted a kiss in his lips. Nami also planted on his cheeks and blissfully ran after Robin. Something for later maybe? They passed by a room filled with denmushi, each with a different name on them, along with an image of who would be called. There were images of prominent allies such as Fisher Tiger, Vivi, who is now a queen, Arlong, what the heck, Whitebeard, Shanks and so on. Luffy's eyes stopped at Viola and his heart skipped. How was she? This is our communication depot to contact allies. Viola suggested it on her last visit. 2 years ago. There seemed to have been something there but he would have to ask later. The duo then stepped to the side as a literal cavalry went through the hallway. In front of the pact was none other than Capone Bede, who got off of his horse and seemingly absorbed the entire cavalry behind him. He then began to casually walk past them, not noticing Luffy. Commander Bede. She addressed his confused look as Bede went ahead to where he assumed was the meeting ground. Komian, let's keep up. She grabbed him by the arm and continued onward. Another figure passed them. Luffy recognized him from back in Baratie. Where was Krieg if Jin was here? The base was bustling, every single person was busy doing something. And what was even crazier was the meeting room, where familiar faces were going over a plan on a massive table. People were moving around, writing things feverishly, going over plans of action, erasing some plan that seemed stupid. And Luffy had a massive grin over his face, realizing the people who were still in the room. He decided to make his presence known by adjusting one of their faulty plans. Luffy took a step forward, not a single person made note of his presence. He then reviewed their battle board and adjusted some things. A man with funky glasses and matching black studded gloves noticed him, finally acknowledging him. Who the hell are you? The man took note of Commander Hancock by his side, but didn't really put two and two together. Luffy ignored him and continued adjusting the board. Good thing he knew the structure of impel down from experience, or else he would have looked stupid. He adjusted the battle board and finally finished. Now all eyes were on him. I said, who the hell are you? Said the man threateningly, grabbing Luffy by the shoulders. Luffy immediately recognized him as Django, the hypnothist from Kuro's crew. Get your hands off him, Django, called a man with a massive blade over his back, the acting supreme commander of the Straw Hat. Commander Mihawk, why? He did as he was told and was surprised to see that Mihawk took a knee. Captain, he said simply, to which the rest of the room followed. Luffy looked around as Bede, Brook, Jinbei were the next three to follow. The tears escaped the eyes of Bonclay, Khalifa, and Gedatsu. Then Monet, Jabra, Kaku, Ohm, Shira, and Brûlé followed. Captain, exclaimed Brûlé. Those who knew him as a legend followed hesitantly in the end, which happened to be Jin, Kuro, and of course Django, who looked mortified at his actions. He looked around, surveying the room with a smile over his face. Sorry to keep you waiting for so long, everyone, so why don't we get to work? He ordered everyone, to which everyone got up and ran up to look at his plan on the battle board. It's perfect, said Kuro simply, as Luffy walked towards Mihawk. Hey Mihawk. He stood in front of the swordsman with a smile on his face. Hello Captain, greeted the swordsman, as he couldn't hold his smile at his usual stoic look. We're going to need to accelerate your rise as the king, as I am now dubbed the greatest swordsman. In time, Mihawk. He then embraced his good friend. Memories of their early adventures together flooded his mind. The usual cold commander returned his friend's hug as the two shared a moment. Right then, so this is who's left, huh? Not after we execute your plan, Captain, said Kuro from the battle board, computing the personnel needed for the plan to work. Suddenly, two familiar faces arrived through the entrance hall, neither man really looking forward as they were both reviewing the agenda. Mihawk, yeah, we need to speed up the plan. Come up with anything yet? said the tall swordsman that Luffy was ever so familiar with. Yeah, damned Marines are going to execute Commander Katakuri if we don't move quickly, said another man. He was shirtless for his visit and Luffy immediately realized who it was. His back tattoo was no longer that of Whitebeard but that of a spade. They were warlords of the sea, though more importantly, secret members of the Straw Hat Grand Armada. Hey guys. Luffy announced his presence, to which the two warlords suddenly dropped all that they were holding. In unison, the two individual men yelled, "Captain Yaw? Big bro, impel down eternal hell." Deep in the dark abyss of the cold and lonely hell known as Eternal Hell, prisoners were isolated in their own cells, chained securely along the thick concrete walls. I had a dream that one day I'm free, I had a dream that one day I drink tea, I had a dream. A yellow-haired occupant of the prison sang. He did this every day. His song was on repeat. It got annoying, but there was really no entertainment. Nobody complained, but one man. "Shut the fuck up, Shiki!" exclaimed another prisoner of level 6. This man had been chained in the air, upside down, for being so defiant. "You shut up, crocodile. You fucking brat," responded Shiki. "I've been in this hole for 20-something years, so I do what I want. Once I get out of this, I'll fucking kill you, Shiki," responded Crocodile. Though in his mind he continued to replay his failure. The way the Straw Hats collapsed after Katakuri's defeat was partly his fault. Yeah right, couldn't even defeat Newgate, couldn't even protect his own captain. Shiki knew how to rub the pirate the wrong way, to rile him up. Sure enough, the sound of rustling chains echoed in the distance. But the bondage was too tight. "Stand down, Crocodile, he's not worth it," commented another voice. On the biggest cell of Eternal Hell, a voice commanded. "Oh, Dogtooth is speaking. Gee ha ha ha. You call yourself an emperor but you're stuck in this hellhole. Shut up, brat. Your generation does not understand true piracy." Then it was silence once more. Katakuri didn't give him the satisfaction of a response. Shiki took the silence as time to sing once more. "I had a dream that one day I'm free, I had a dream that one day," though his voice was interrupted by another man. "If you were so strong, then why'd you lose to Roger?" Snickers spread throughout the prisoners of level 6 prisoners. "Good one." A powerful figure leaned against the cement walls of his cell, where the world sang praise to his fellow prisoner. Though he had an itch on the back of his hands, he's been missing the sea, for it had been so long. "Fuck you, Bullet." Though the group laughed at the expense of Shiki. But Shiki joined along as he did not care for their mockery. He could kill them. He could kill them all if it came to it. There were some cells which contained 2 prisoners, one of which had the Gold Emperor and the Thunder God. "What's up, Enel?" asked Guild as he hung on the cold cement wall. He noticed that Enel had his eyes closed. Despite being bound by sea stone binding, he could still extend his sensory mastery mantra. A single tear escaped his eyes, which was weird for the now sagely man. Enel had been in Impel Down for 9 years, and his attitude and form had changed, though he maintained a physical peak. "I didn't want to believe it. I felt traces of him in Enland, and yet I said it was impossible. For 9 years I monitored the resonance and it remained dormant. But that changed a couple of days ago, so I thought maybe he was alive." "Who is?" Guild asked in confusion. "The captain is here." Then suddenly the Impel Down prison shook violently as sounds of explosion could be heard in the far distance, on the surface. Impel Down. Entrance. The explosion came from the very top floor of Impel Down. The plan was quite simple. In order to get access to Impel Down, Law would have to come in on his submarine. Beeg, with the entire fighting force inside of him, would jump to the platform outside of Impel Down and Law would swap Magellan and Beeg. Thus the Straw Hats will have access to the hellish prison. Then outside on the platform, Monkey D. Luffy faced the poison user, with a confident smile plastered across his face. "Who might you be?" asked the warden. His body was now morphing into the substance which could kill a man by a light touch. Luffy looked up from right under his straw hat, his eyes now shining a powerful gleam. "Monkey D. Luffy," he proclaimed, to which Magellan was taken aback. "No. You're dead?" He heard of the news of Mugiwara's death 9 years ago. "How is it that he's here?" "I'm still kicking." Magellan attempted to end the battle by swallowing Luffy in a sea of poison demons, but Luffy was much smarter and more experienced than their first battle. So he used Haki and his speed in such proficiency That Magellan's slow-moving poison could not keep up. How would another failure look under your name? Luffy casually dodged the incoming poison, not even really trying to attack, at least not yet. He had a plan for Magellan, he just wanted to weigh his resolve. Dead, killed for my incompetence. That's why you shall not escape today. Two sets of poison demons clashed amongst themselves, missing the Straw Hat captain completely. That's a stupid reason to be killed. Hey, listen. Luffy decided to finally go into offense, delivering a precise, yet powerful jet pistol to the face of Magellan, surprising the warden by sending him back. If you lose to me, you work for me. I won't lose to you. Magellan wiped the blood from his nose and proceeded to generate more poison demons, all of which were destroyed in a matter of minutes by Luffy. He expanded his fist and launched a powerful barrage of hockey-infused fist through the bodies of the poison demons. Think again, Luffy said with a smile, as he seemingly floated in the air, looking down on the warden of Impelled Down. For Luffy, who was bound to become an emperor after the world learns of his return, this was simply a detour back to his journey as the king. Impelled Down, Crimson Hell. Inside Impelled Down, the Straw Hats have successfully taken out the communication department, subdued the jailers, and were now on a rapid descent to level 6 to free all of their comrades. The rescue party consisted of Law, who was the catalyst for the plan. Without his pass through the gates of justice, they would never have gotten in the prison in such a quiet manner. Then Big housed the members of the breakout party. Ace was asked to stay behind on the submarine, asked to only come out only when absolutely necessary. The government did not need to know of two members of the Warlord being secret members of the Straw Hats. The captain had tasked himself of subduing Magellan. For some reason, he wanted to deal with him personally. Frankie and Brook took care of the information department, while Chopper and Nami set up a medical depot inside of Big. And Brule provided a pathway to the HQ along with Blueno. By the end of this trip, they would clear the prison of their allies and be home free. The rest of the jailers were awash, as Mihawk made quick work of Hanayabal. Big overwhelmed Saldeth. Hancock dealt with Domino while Robin had Sadie in a bind. This is weird, huh? The Supreme Commander is back and all, commented Big as he stood over Sadeth. She was bound tightly on the ground. It's still so surreal. Really? Robin replied while sitting on the bound Sadie. The two talked to each other casually despite being in a serious situation. They had no fear, for the captain was back. The other forces were defeated by the rest of the Straw Hat, as the purpose of the members of Impelled Down was to keep prisoners in, not defend from people going in. That was the purpose of the Gate of Justice, but Law's status as warlord got them through. Through level 1, the Straw Hats freed their comrades, quickly dealing with the guards. No bladed grass could stop them. In this level, Dice, Kabaji, Moji, and Satori were prisoners no more. How did you guys get here? Asked Satori, out of energy from being imprisoned for so long. He still could not believe that they were free at last. He's back, replied Ohm with a smile. To this Satori teared up. There was hope once more. Jin, set me free, exclaimed Don Krieg, the former captain of the Krieg Armada. Ever since his embarrassing defeat at the hands of the Straw Hats, he had been sent to Impelled Down. Jin took one look at Krieg and scoffed. No longer did his former captain have any ounce of his respect. For he had his chance, but his chance has long passed. 2 years ago, Toto Land, Commander Katakish threw, exclaimed Crocodile, although his decision would lead to their ultimate downfall. This no-killing limit was really putting them at a disadvantage, and now Katakuri was caught in fire. Just their luck. Satori followed blindly as per the commander's orders, but it was for naught, as he ended up being the unfortunate half who was caught. The ball user ended up on the wrong end of Charlotte Smoothie's hand, as he ended up dry to the bones. He's never seen himself skinny before, so I guess that would be a slight positive. On another end of the Yonko territory, there were many things happening. Richie. A horrible screech came from the beast tamer, who held his beloved pet in both hands. The dup had become an impeccable partnership, and yet Richie was slain by Charlotte Perispero. The heartless bastard was going to kill Moji. But Richie rushed in to save his tamer, though more importantly, friend. Kabaji tried to intervene for his heartbroken friend, but Perispero trapped him too, and Dice was caught in the candy prison. Impelled Down, Beast held down to level 2 and there was disbelief and excitement from the members of the Straw Hats. On this floor were Tanaka, Hatchin, and Absalom. "I never truly lost fate," proclaimed Tanaka as he was freed from his binding. No longer was he bound from using his abilities as he happily zoomed through different prisoners' cell, knocking out other pirates who should not be given a chance to escape. He returned in front of Bonclay, who helped him out. Me too," Bonclay said with a smile. Though the journey continued as the forces of the Straw Hats continued to make their descent. No beast of this hell could slow them down. "She's with me," exclaimed Hatchin as he grabbed the hand of the woman formerly known as Miss Doublefinger. For her time in prison, her demeanor has changed and her outlook in life has become more positive. Hatchin had held a cell with her for these past 2 years, and he found a friend in her. 2 years ago, Toto Land. "I'm sorry, Commander, I'm not getting out of this one." Hatchin fell on both knees, dropping his blade, accepting the fate which was handed to him as a superheated blade sliced across his chest. On the other line of the call was the head of military personnel, Atlantis Island, Arlong. His duties for his people weigh more than his duties for the Straw Hat, as the captain's final orders were to ensure that his people have a safe journey to the surface, to protect them. "Hatchin," began the voice of Arlong on the line, though Charlotte Oven stepped on the device, effectively breaking it. "No," exclaimed Tanaka as his power was practically useless, as all inorganic substances in Big Mom's territory are alive. So he had to get to Hatchin through the good old-fashioned way, running. But he never would get to him as Smoothie caught him, wringing him like a wet towel and tossing him to the side. Though the massive woman met the end of a saber, her skin pierced clean through. An invisible man successfully injured her, but that invisible man was knocked out with a kick. Absalom was no match for the sweet commander. "Weak," said Smoothie as Absalom faded into darkness. Impelled down, starvation hell once descending into the 3rd level, the allies in this floor were barely scraping by, driven to the point of starvation. This floor had Gladius, Baccarat, and Macvis. "It's been so long. Where is Guild?" Baccarat asked weakly, looking around through the fighting members of the crew. Monet held her up and gave her water and some pieces of bread. She could not shock her with more food or it will kill her. "We're going to get him soon." "I see," responded the red-haired lady before passing out. "I'll be back in no time," commented Macvis as Gedatsu noted that he had lost his muscles. "Glad to have you back," Gedatsu said with a smile. Gladius was given his attire and was glad he could finally be back to normal. Gladius, take me with you." Buffalo, a former member of the Don Quixote family, used every ounce of his energy to muster up the plea for freedom. Gladius looked at Buffalo, surveying him. For the time they were here and impelled down, he was good company, funny guy too. "Your call," Sanji said as he tossed the keys to Gladius. He looked down on it and contemplated whether to free Gladius or not. And the party began moving down, with Commander Mihawk at the helm. Zoro got in front of Mihawk, dealing with any and all the jailers that attempted to stop their pursuit for their comrades. Mihawk had a smile throughout this entire journey as his student was finally becoming a masterful swordsman, though his lack of control of it still concerned him. Some of the forces began filtering back up with Big as he was staying in level 1, to house all escapee. Those who can't go on were commanded to move back up, to get the treatment that they need. Being in prison for so long takes its toll. 2 years ago, Toto Land. "I sure wish the Haruden was here." Macvis gritted between his teeth as he held the fist of Charlotte Snack, attempting to stop his strike for as much as he can. Gladius jumped over him, covering Snack's face with a cloth. He then charged it and exploded the cloth, causing Snack to blow back. But instead of falling, he grabbed Macvis by the arm and slammed him on the ground. Gladius attempted to attack the commander but also fell into the hands of the enemy. "Baccarat, you should retreat." Guild covered himself and who he could protect in liquid gold, solidifying it as a wall. "No, you should escape." The two have developed a relationship, one of which was unexpected even for the two of them. She pushed him out of the way and was slain at the tip of the enemy's blade. "Your mistake was entering our land." Charlotte Cracker held his spear, pointing it at the head of Guild. The enraged commander swallowed Cracker with his gold, barraging him with sharpened spears. Though Cracker's tough exterior and the lengthy battle ultimately resulted in the Gold Emperor's downfall, Cracker sustained some injuries, as he was forced out of his tough defense and out in the open. Guild lost by facing the real Cracker, falling at the end of his sword. Impelled down, blazing hell, on and off for 2 years. Icarus much had lived his actual living hell. For the past 2 years, he was living close to a pit of fire, constantly burned near death and resurrected only for the days to return once more. "I got you, my friend." Jin gave Icarus some water, to which the fish man could not believe what he was seeing. There's no way, no way. He had been broken for the torture which he had experienced. "Believe it, my friend." Galdino was being helped to his feet by Kuro, and Virgo stood on his own. Aladdin joined the forces that went down to the floor, even though he had been held in prison for so long. "It's good to see you, friend," Kuro said to Galdino. "How is this happening?" asked Galdino as he rehydrated. "Captain is here." To this Galdino's eyes widened. His tired muscle gained a new level of energy. Despite the intense heat, his wax covered his body. His entire body was covered in wax armor that he continued to rebuild despite his tired muscle. Virgo stood in front of the former Mr. One of the Baroque works, his form more intimidating than ever. "Well?" asked Virgo simply as the two men understood each other. "Fine," replied Daz Bones as he got up and joined Virgo, the two working well together to eliminate the jailers in their way. 2 years ago, Toto Land Charlotte Daifuku defeated the likes of Aladdin and Icarus much. Only Galdino stood in between his comrades and certain death. Arlong regretted not sending enough help. He should have been there, he should have. But he was bound by his duties, his people. If 1 second Arlong, the Saw, left his land, pirates would have a field day with Atlantis, especially the damned slavers. For they were willing to lose some life, for the return of the coveted fishfolk's slave. He could not do that for his people. "I respect your will." Daifuku's genie pressured the wax arm watt his effort. The genie got through his guard. And down goes Galdino. Virgo attempted to strike down the genie, though he was outmatched, also falling at the tip of its blade. Impelled down, freezing hell, finally. Buggy had been sitting in the same spot for years, only moving when he needed to. The Straw Hat commander had Corazon for company, but the former Marine was not much of a talker. "Commander!" exclaimed Kabaji and Moji. "One question. Where is Alvida?" said Buggy, a hint of venom in his voice. For that woman was the reason he was imprisoned, and why he was not there for the war in Toto Land. "A warlord now," chimed in Law as he heard Buggy's question. "She's mine," Buggy said simply. Corazon had found Trebol in level 5 and the two had been in constant communication. The former officer of his brother had become more mild-mannered. Maybe this prison was really good for the former evils of the world. So Corazon took Trebol with them. He would make a valuable ally as long he was kept in check. 2 years ago, Toto Land Corazon was bombarded by the children of Big Mom, as despite his battle prowess, the Straw Hats were simply outnumbered. He met his end at the combined punch of 3 of Big Mom's sons, Charlotte Cadenza, Charlotte Counter, and Charlotte Cabaletta. How did it all go wrong? He wondered how their plan failed as everything was good, their movement was precise, but the fall at the top caused their ultimate downfall. So then, what happened? Impelled down, Eternal Hell Luffy went through the first floor, tossing the fallen form of Magellan to Beeg. He immediately cuffed the fallen warden and tossed him in his body's jail cell. What a weird string of sentences, but it was true for Beeg. His body was a living, breathing fortress. "Be back in a bit," Luffy said with a smile on his face. He gave Robin a wink and rushed downstairs. "Go get our boys, Captain," yelled Beeg, and Luffy gave him a thumbs up. The retrieval party were finally in level 6 of Impelled Down. They used Hanayabal credentials in order to get through the bolted gates. "Ah, the Straw Hats are here, I see." Shiki leaned against his cell, watching as the Straw Hats freed their allies. "Been some time, eh?" Guild rubbed his wrist as he was finally free. He immediately searched for Bakura and he was put at ease when someone relayed to him that she was with Beeg, getting some rest. "Good. Good," said Guild with relief in his voice. "This hellhole was pretty peaceful," said Crocodile as Caesar released him from his binding. "This Straw Hat fellow must be really strong, huh?" asked Bullet as he leaned against his own railings, watching as the Straw Hats began to filter in, helping their allies. "He's here, isn't he?" asked Enel, shaking the hands of all he could make contact with. It's been so long since he's seen them. Katakuri. Mihawk grabbed the hand of the former emperor, helping him to his feet. Mihawk. I'm sorry I lost it. He got up and joined the others near the entranceway. It's okay. Mihawk replied with a smile, he's back. I didn't believe it when Enel began to speak of his return. But with you all here, and Magellan nowhere in sight, is he really here? Hey everyone. The Straw Hat commander finally made his entrance, looking at the crowd that had gathered in level 6, Eternal Hell. Almost instantaneously, those who were imprisoned in level 6 immediately recognized his arrival. Despite not seeing him for 9 years, they knew full well who it is. The why and how will be asked later. Guild immediately took a knee, followed by Enel. Crocodile, despite his hard nature, took a knee as well. Then last to take a knee was Katakuri, the former Yonko, recognizing who the real king was of the Straw Hats. So you're the guy, huh? Shiki looked over at Straw Hat Luffy with a smirk over his face. You youngsters have gotten really cocky since I've been placed in here. Golden Lion, I've heard tales about you, is that so? Yeah, but that's just it, simple tales, word of mouth. Luffy began to tease as he indicated the Straw Hats to stand on their feet once more. Why you? Shiki began, though Luffy stepped up, grabbing his cell with one hand and ripping it out of the wall. I'm going to become the king of pirates. Want to be there when I realize my dream into a reality? Asked Luffy. At first, Shiki had an annoyed look at his face, though his attitude changed once he realized that this young man was the real deal. Is it true you are allied with Newgate? Yeah. Luffy responded, and Shiki's frown turned into a smile. If ever I doubt your resolve, I'll kill you myself, Mugiwara. But Luffy took this threat, as Shiki joining his cause. We could use an adventurer like yourself. Luffy leaned against the cell of one Burndy World. Luffy remembered him from his time in Amazon Lily. Back in his normal timeline. Looks like he never got out of prison. The man considered his options, to have a chance to taste the sea once more. Sure, why not? I'm getting older here anyway. Burndy was helped out of his shackles. Luffy then moved on to Bullet, who had yet to say something. So? Luffy asked, arms crossed and a smile over his face. His confidence was intoxicating that not one person in that room could doubt that he was here to play. Douglas Bullet sized him up, from his background of being a warrior, only losing to Gold D. Roger, and the combined might of the Marines. I'll go, but I had to see if you were a man worth my time. Deal. Responded Luffy. And just like that, the Straw Hat Pirates had their king, their entire force, and an addition of Douglas Bullet, Burndy World, and Shiki, the Golden Lion, in their forces. Once he dealt with the 3 powerful prisoners of Eternal Hell, he then went to address his people. Get back out of here, we have to go before this prison gets back up. Ordered Luffy, and people began filtering out. Though the 4 prisoners of level 6 hang back a little, waiting to address the return of their captain. Captain. Said Guild with a smile, giving the captain a handshake. Been a while, Guild. Replied Luffy after they shook hands. He went after the rest. Luffy moved towards Crocodile, who had a smirk over his face. Back from the dead, huh? I guess so. You didn't become a deadbeat, huh? I guess so. They shared a laugh. Then Crocodile grabbed him by the shoulder. It's good to have you back, Captain. And the sand user went after the rest, escaping the prison. Luffy noted that before, the sand user would never acknowledge him as his captain. How times have changed. Captain, I was swallowed by hatred and revenge, and went after the Ice Admiral. I should have used better judgment and realized that I was needed more by the crew than rotting in prison. We're way past that now, Enel. I failed everyone as well. Now we move past our mistakes and move on. Are you with me? Always. Answer Enel, for it was Luffy who gave him a chance for a family, and it was him he owed his life to. Enel then went after the rest, yearning for the freedom that evaded him for so long. The smell of fresh air would be nice. Captain. Katakuri approached him, as the 2 men were the last to go up. The entire journey to the surface was a conversation on how he failed. 2 years ago, Toto Land. Now how did Katakuri fail against Charlotte Linlin, Big Mom? My son, it seems you have returned. Mother, I am here for your road poneglyphs. Nobody else needs to get hurt. It is true, my son, you have amassed a massive fighting force, but you failed to plan for one thing. Big Mom had Charlotte Pudding by her hair, and Charlotte Brownie on the other. What I'm willing to do to win. Mama. She then let the body of Brownie drop on the floor before Katakuri could react, as she pulled out his soul, removing his lifespan to give Katakuri the idea that she was not bluffing. She then began to shift her gaze to Pudding. I have 85 children, all of which are disposable to me at my whim. Give up this pursuit for my road poneglyph Katakuri, or I'll kill as much of your precious sibling. Ni, just as Big Mom was going to rip the life force out of Pudding. Don't. Mama. Good. Then Big Mom tossed Pudding to the side and surrounded Prometheus fire around Katakuri. And she let it stay on him towards the entirety of the rest of the war. Or it couldn't even be called a war, as with Katakuri immobilized, nobody could stop Big Mom. Sure, they could slow her down, but the Emperor was too much. Pudding watched on as tears welled up in her 3 eyes. Previously Katakuri was the perfect brother, a model for all to follow. But since his disappearance, the entire family changed their view on him. They hated him for betraying their family. But here he was, protecting her, commanding his troops to not kill his siblings. Maybe Mama was in the wrong, maybe. Crocodile realized that Guild had fallen at the hands of Cracker, so he went after the biscuit user. Though the combined effort of Daifuku and Cracker meant the end of the lone warrior. So instead of fighting for a victory, he fought for the escape of his comrades. Impelled down. Entrance. I don't blame you, Katakuri. His recollection of the events to the Lost finally settled in Luffy's mind, but he did not blame his first commander. He was not at fault. But Captain, due to my familial ties, I caused the suffering of everyone. In Luffy's mind, he was thinking about how he let down everyone for 9 freaking years, and Katakuri was feeling bad for loving his family. Love for your family is what makes you yourself, Katakuri. And Big Mom exposed your love, thinking it was your weakness. Believe me, my friend, after we're done with her, she won't be able to hurt you or your family again. With that, Luffy and Katakuri returned to the submarine, Big and Law following closely after. The rest of the group was within Big or transported to the HQ through a mirror or door. Good to have you back, Captain, said Law, though Luffy noted that his appearance remained that of his younger self. You've missed 9 years of pure craziness. The Surgeon of Death remains loyal with the Straw Hats due to the captain's action in killing Doflamingo. That was liberating. They got aboard the yellow submarine and swiftly cleared the Gate of Justice. Just as they exited on the other side of the massive wall, sirens erupted, as Impelled Down was finally able to get their communication going again. There were many things that caused a blood vessel to pop in the Marine's head. Breakout of multiple level 1 through 5 prisoners, though that wasn't even the surface of the issue. Head jailer Magellan was missing. Breakout of multiple level 6 prisoners. Crocodile, Enel, Guild, Shiki, Bullet, Burndi. More pressing of the concerns was the former Yonko, Katakuri. But that wasn't even the biggest headache. The embarrassing betrayal from one, Trafalgar Law, it wasn't this either. Something peculiar happened while the Straw Hats were breaking out of jail. There's rumors that he's back. The man who caused terror in the world of the Marines. The same man who embarrassed them at every turn. From the many eyes of the jailers of Impelled Down, they all could concur. That a certain straw hat wearing, ass-kicking, young man was back from the dead, and all they could ask was, how? Monkey D. Luffy is back. A day before the raid of Impelled Down. Where were you this time? Here and there. Are you ever going to come back? Asked a raven-haired woman, the one which took over his job when he left. No, working in the shadow is where I am needed, said a tall and muscular man, complete with an all-white attire. Well, he's back. I know, then you'll resume your post? No, I can't face him yet. Well, he told me that if I ever run into you, he wants you to visit Wano. So he knows. I suppose. They went back and forth casually, in the center of a busy town. Why? No idea. He said one of these days, 5 people will appear from thin air. 4 adults, and 1 child. Save them from Kaido, bring them here. Will that atone for my sins? The man asked as he looked dejected. Maybe. With this, the 2 figures parted ways. Watch out for the painter, was the raven-haired beauty's last word. To which the tall man nodded, disappearing in the shadow once more. Marineford, how could this happen? Commander-in-Chief. Kong slammed his fist right through his table. For 9 years they have been free of him. For 9 years he's been dead. And yet now comes the news that Mugiwara has returned and retrieved his entire army. Admiral Aokiji sat across from the angry commander-in-chief, not an ounce of fear in his eyes. "You killed him, didn't you?" "I did, I was sure of it," replied the ice user, though he was passive in his response, almost absent from the conversation. "Then how the hell is he alive?" exclaimed Kong as he tossed the table straight across the room, barely missing Aokiji by an inch. "I do not know," responded Aokiji, looking at the commander-in-chief dead in his eyes. The ice user let out cold air from his body, seemingly threatening the commander-in-chief. Though Kong was no pushover, one does not achieve his rank without having the power to back him up. "Whoa, let's just calm down." Sengoku happened to arrive at just the right moment, when things were starting to get intense between the admiral and commander-in-chief. "For your insubordination, Admiral Aokiji, you're suspended without pay for 30 days. Get out of my office," screamed Kong. His skin turning a shade of black and fur began to erupt from his darkened skin. "Am I dismissed?" asked Aokiji, though now being stripped of his title. He removed his uniform jacket and had to go by Kuzan for the next month. And he left, with a smirk on his face. Time to have a little freedom to do things that he needs to handle. "How is he alive, Sengoku?" Kong nearly popped a blood vessel. "Doesn't matter how he is alive. He is." Sengoku then began to walk outside of Kong's office. "Anyway, come on, relate." "Damn it all. Just my luck. Insubordination, and now I got the old bastards breathing down my neck." Regardless of being pissed, Kong led the way. Sengoku snickering at the commander-in-chief's choice of word. They were tasked to make way to Marineford Battleship Garage, the largest in their facility. Ever wonder why it had been restricted access for the last 5 years? Sengoku walked alongside Kong as they casually had a conversation. "I'm not paid to ask, especially since the Gorosei headed the order." Though Kong looked around, and when recognizing that nobody would be able to hear him, he leaned in and whispered, "All I know is, a man goes in, never comes back out." Huh? Sengoku began to think, what could be in their biggest battleship depot, that only the Gorosei had access to the bay? Well, anyway, we'll find out shortly. Kong and Sengoku stopped and stepped out of the way as massive dumpsters slowly passed them. A wretched smell passed them. "God, what are they doing in there? You there? What the hell is this?" Kong asked, pulling one of the drivers to the side. "I don't know, sir. My orders are to bring them to the incinerator and leave, sir." Then Kong forces him away. The envoy of dumpsters finally passed them, making its way to the incineration area. Kong and Sengoku made their way through the massive entranceway of the battleship bay. It only took them a few moments to find the 5 elders, all of which had their backs from the 2 of them. They were on a raised platform overlooking a wide area of darkness. "At last, our project is complete." A blonde-haired, bearded elder star spoke for the group, looking at the distance. Sengoku and Kong were still confused as to what the hell they were doing there since it was so damn dark. "I'll deal with it," Admiral Akainu offered. "I'll kill the brat." "We can't move yet, not without the blessing of the Gorosei. And from what I hear, Red-Haired proposed some interesting information that directed their attention away from Mugiwara." "Fuck the Gorosei, let me go and deal absolute justice. Z would agree with me if he wasn't on his mission," Akainu exclaimed, his body turning into part magma from his outburst. What information did Red-Haired provide that is bigger than this fucking super rookie? He provided valuable information that the Marines need to address with urgency, which in turn diverted our resources to these things. "Well, what is it?" asked Akainu. He gave the Gorosei information. "What is this about?" Admiral Kuzan entered the office. "Finish what you were saying, Sengoku. What did he give the Gorosei?" Akainu demanded, not only at seeing Kuzan, but at Sengoku not finishing his statement. "He gave the Gorosei information on." Even Akainu and Kuzan could not believe what they were hearing. Impossible. Chapter 23. Many years ago, Red-Haired traded information so that our focus shifted from the events back then. We thought about it. Why would he give us this information? Is it to stop our chase of a certain Straw Hat pirate? 9 years ago when Red-Haired gave us the information on one of the ancient weapons. Maybe now he'll regret the gamble he made of that young man. Sengoku and Kong collectively gasped. There was no way they obtained them. Sengoku thought that the information was bad, that Shanks gave them the wrong information. It took us a year to find Pluton, ripped it out of the corpse of Water 7. 8 years ago, a buster call was sent to Water 7, destroying everything in sight. This was their goal, why Water 7 was destroyed. It was all to obtain Pluton. Ever since then, we've taken over this battleship bay and interpreted the blueprint. Lights began to turn on systematically, as 3 massive weapons of mass destruction covered the room. A marine battleship was huge, but these were 10 times larger. Pluton is a massive battleship, a pure weapon of destruction. Its purpose is to destroy and to eliminate. In order to test its functionality, we send Pluton 1 to coordinates x 562.457. The combined shocked expression of the fleet admiral and commander-in-chief caused a smile to form on the elder swordsman. "This will cause more destruction than a buster call?" asked Kong as his eyes were wide. They had the weapons, but the cost of innocent lives. "We will see." Metal began to grind together as the sound of alarm began to ring in the air. Wind picked up as the Pluton 1 ship began to ascend, slowly but surely. Admiral Kizaru's nephew was really helpful in providing us with an army of pacifistas, so not a single marine life is shredded in this mission. The roof of the battleship bay opened, the ship flew in the air, eventually disappearing in the distance. Their trajectory to the specified coordinates. What if it gets destroyed? Sengoku was asking the important question, though shaking in fear for who was at the end of the ship's wrath. "We make more." An army of people, old and young with shackled wrists, rushed into the room, once again beginning the process from the very beginning. The 5 Elder Stars were planning to destroy this world. They were trying to erase pirates from existence, and they could succeed. Dawn Island, Straw Hat HQ. The captives of Impel Down have finally returned home, and a new wave of allies have joined them. The last to enter the underground land was Luffy. He observed as people began to get airsick were led to the medical bay, headed by Law. Dr. Hogback, Dr. Kureha, Dr. Hiralik, Chopper, and surprisingly Crocus remained on with the crew. "I need blood banks set up. We need to get our patients back to health," commanded Law, and despite being one of the youngest of the bunch, he was well respected. "We'll get Area X ready for you, Captain," Frankie exclaimed, for Area X was a special location within the Straw Hat HQ. Frankie led a group to the research unit, moving on to the labs once more with Caesar. Usopp put his hands on Bullet and led him to the labs as well. They got to know each other well on the journey back to home base, and Usopp became instant friends with the towering beast of a man. Though in Bullet's mind, he still needed to test the strength of the Mugiwara fellow. Frankie and Usopp worked in conjunction in the research weapons division. They each headed one on their own. A mission unit returned, which was out when Luffy returned. Wiper and Baby 5 were in this group, so to say they were shocked would be an understatement. Sugar ran up to Monet and embraced her sister. No longer was she keeping herself young, as she now looked her normal age. Another personnel that was new was Senor Pink, who had apparently joined up with the crew as soon as his son asked him to go with the cool pirates. For all of the young life of Gimlet, tales of his time with pirates and a great man named Arlong filled his childhood stories. When he was old enough to become more aware, he began to insist that his father should get back to business. Bonnie, Yorogue, and Zeph were the last to enter the mission group. "I knew you weren't dead because I still needed to kick your ass for sticking me with all those damned kids." Zeph and Luffy shared a moment, whereas Bonnie gave him an embrace while Yorogue shook his hands. "It's been a while, Captain," Yorogue said, his grip firm, his form a lot stronger than he was before. Though the group retreated and someone else came up to him. "Hey babe, everyone is still as busy as ever, huh?" And they didn't even seem to have missed a beat, as the Straw Hats functioned well with the return of the imprisoned allies. "Hey," he gave her a firm kiss on the lips. How about me?" Robin passed by the duo and stole a kiss from Luffy while winking at Hancock. "I took care of it," she said as she then proceeded to her unit, the one formerly headed by Rob Lucci, the intelligence unit. Closely behind the beautiful black-haired lady was Kaku, who shook the captain's hands, Jabra, Khalifa, and Bluno. So not yet, huh? "So our medical department is headed by Law. Our research, weapons manufacturing is jointly headed by Usopp and Frankie. I am rambling, for that is the old structure. With you back, I'm sure you'll find a better way to structure our division," Hancock began. "How about combat roles? Well, the personnel are divided into roles, and each debrief with their unit leaders at the end of a mission. She then pointed at the retreating figures of the mission group which would debrief with the others. That's as good of an example as any. Luffy then took a seat along a metal chair whereas Hancock wrapped her arms around him and sat on his lap. So what we had going was a certain mission. We would pull from the units. For their mission of liberation and rescue, 2 weapons experts, a nutritionist and a heavy arm was needed for the mission. Wiper and Baby 5 are under the weapons division, Sugar and Bonnie are their nutritionist to keep them healthy for battle. And the mission was jointly headed by Yurog, who is the heavy arm, and Zeph, whose experience and leadership is reliable. I like that structure. Who thought of it? Luffy asked while Hancock placed her head on his shoulder. Kuro, he's been a valuable addition to the crew, ever since Usopp captured him before he could execute his plan to retire with Kaya's money. Crocodile found him, but Usopp took care of him as it was personal that he targeted Kaya. Wow. Looks like I don't have to do much planning, we're just going to need to acclimate the new arrivals. Then a sweet silence covered them as they let the moment sink in. For Hancock, she was beyond happy to have him back. For many years her goal was to become the strongest woman in all the seas. She could still achieve this, with Luffy being the strongest man. While she was staring at him, Luffy caught her. Yes, he would ask, which she replied with, I truly love you. Luffy smiled at her sentiment. It really was like no time was lost between the two lovers. And I truly love you. They exchanged a look and smiled at one another for being so loving. Captain. Frankie approached the duo. Sorry to interrupt, but we have Area X ready, and everyone is waiting. It's going to be super. Yes. Luffy said with a smile before getting up, hand in hand with Hancock, and walked behind Frankie as they made their way to Area X. What was Area X? This state-of-the-art battle arena is created underground to create any terrain to your heart's content. We use it for battle tactics, training, and for your case, Captain, battle. Frankie continued to speak his heart out about his baby. We, of the research division, have been working tirelessly to create a perfect environment to test your limits. Perfect timing on your dramatic return, Captain, as it's ready for all-out battle. So you're telling me if I go all out, the island won't be destroyed? Well, in theory, no, as we have placed counter sensors all over the arena to absorb the shock created by abilities, physical anomalies, and such. Think of it like a sponge. Excellent. Mugiwara arrived in Area X, where he had requested the presence of people who needed to know where he was. He had been gone for 9 years and some people doubted his current form. The same man who beat Whitebeard 9 years ago was Yonko level indeed. But those who challenged his authority were needed to be woken up to his true form. New recruits such as Shiki, Bullet, and Verndine needed to know his true power. And those who he personally requested to challenge, as he wanted to gauge their power since he disappeared. But all of which declined, acknowledging him as their superior. Even the Yonko Katakuri. Finally, I get to see what you're about, Mugiwara, exclaimed Bullet from the other side of the battlefield. Around the arena were spectators. Those who didn't know of him are going to learn about his true power. Why men like Mihawk and Katakuri immediately recognized him as their superior. With an army of doctors ready on the sideline, and the research department in the control room, it was game time. 9 years ago. Sphinx, you damned brat. Nothing will come of your ploy for revenge. Whitebeard had tossed Katakuri against a stone wall, causing his body to etch within the foundation. Fuck you, old man, we must avenge our captain. Katakuri attempted to get up, but Marco delivered a knee to his abdomen. Look men, you're mad, I get it, but not like this. You'll get your crew killed. Marco and Whitebeard had been trying to calm the enraged commander, having to use physicality to hold him back. Fuck you too, pineapple head. I can still kick your ass. Katakuri attempted to lunge at Marco but was met with a kick to the gut, but none other than Mihawk. Katakuri. Enough. He's dead. No. For the first time, the first commander finally let his emotions take him over. For the participants in that room, Katakuri began to break down. For his adventures with the captain meant more to him than his life with his own mother. The one he strove to make king was now dead. He failed as a first mate, as a friend. I failed him as well. But all we can do is move forward. Mihawk then helped Katakuri to his feet, the first commander swallowing his tears as he cried for the last time. Sometime later. I have to follow his last request. I will continue on as the Straw Hat Grand Armada captain. No objection here. Mihawk chimed in, retaining his composure, despite the dire situation. Crocodile, Guild, and Buggy agreed to the plan, though some of the Kamanias in their head. Yeah. Hancock sat beside Robin and Viola. The grieving ladies found comfort in one another. His request was for me to become a queen for my people, and I shall, proclaimed Viola. To this everyone remained silent, allowing the information to digest. We need someone on the inside, someone to watch the government's inner working, began Corazon as the group was in a jumble from the recent events. I'll do it. Law was the first to volunteer. With his Ope no Mi, he'll be able to achieve the place where he needs to be, in order to have access to where he needs to go. You need to have someone on the inside, working with our enemies to keep tabs of what they're doing. Especially that bastard Teach, suggested Whitebeard. They won't suspect me, I'll even give them a reason that I want Kaido dead. I have a personal vendetta against him. It was Moria's turn to speak up. His profile was that of a villain, they would not suspect a damn thing. I have to fulfill my promise to the captain. I need to gather the giants of this world and create the giant pirates once more. Restore us to our former glory. Haruden added to the group discussion. So after today, I, along with Dory and Brogy, will go on our journey, to fulfill our promise. No objection from the group. I too have a promise to the fallen captain. To raise my people to the surface, I have to keep my promise. Arlong. Katakuri began, though Arlong interrupted him. I have to. Which meant only one thing, either Brule would come with him or they would have to find a way to make it work. If not, then. On the corner of the room were two commanders who remained quiet throughout the discussion. For Enel, his mind was set on revenge. For Lucci, his mind was clouded with emotion. Dismissed, Wano. Castle remains. A strong gust of wind enveloped the cold remains of what was once a mighty and beautiful castle. The gust of wind was replaced by the sudden appearance of 4 adults, 1 child. Lord Momosuke. Are you alright? Kinemon immediately tended to the young lord. Kanjuro hung to the side with wide eyes. Meanwhile Raizo and Kikunojo surrounded the group, protecting the young lord. My father is dead. Tears welled up in the young lord's eyes as the realization of his father's fate finally settled in. In his mind, it just happened, but in the mind of others, it has been 20 years since that fateful day. The 4 members of the Scabbards were on high alert. Below their foot was a remnant of dragonfire, which covered this very castle on the day they were teleported by Lady Toki. My mother is also, began Momonosuke as the young lord cried once more. My lord, we must be quiet, for we do not know who is present. Who is our friend, who is our enemy? Hi, said a man blankly. His was shirtless, revealing his bare body, his muscle bulging, for they were maximized for efficiency. Kanjuro and Kinemon immediately went on the defensive. The man noted that the painted face man had a paintbrush for a weapon. The painter. Who are you? They were on the edge, for in their head, Lord Odin just died. My name is not important, but I am here to retrieve your party. His tired eyes were evident, and yet he looked serious. Why should we go with you? Exclaimed Raizo, his kunai knife ready at a moment's notice. If you don't, the big guy will kill you all. The man pointed at a location in the distance. Though the child and his retainers already knew who he meant. Kaido, the man who defeated Lord Odin. How do we know we can trust you? You don't. Though in the distance, a mighty roar erupted in the distance. The mighty roar of the world's strongest beast echoed in the distance. But you have no choice. Toto Land. Cacao Island. This is your son with him? Charlotte Pudding was the Minister of Chocolate. She resided in Cacao Island, which is the domain given by her mother. Yes, isn't he beautiful? Answered Charlotte Chiffon, as she stood beside her twin sister, Charlotte Lola. So beautiful, sister! Exclaimed Lola, taking the young baby from her sister's hands. How do you two do it? Asked Pudding as Lola handed her the young baby. She admired the child and longed for her own, one day. When a man loves a woman, they find a way, Chiffon said with a loving smile on her face. Though she pulled something out of her dress pocket, revealing a mirror. And of course, having a sister like. Chiffon omitted from saying Brule's name as to not alarm the homies. Your meeting in the middle of a war was uncanny, wasn't it? said Pudding as she gently swung the young baby in her arms. He had me at, no lady should participate in a war like this. When a muscular fellow accidentally knocked me on my butt. He helped me on my feet and it was an instant connection. Chiffon had hearts in her eyes as she retold the beginning of her love story. By the way, Pudding, did you ever recover from? You know. Lola was treading on thin water as any mention of the evil doings of their mother was pure taboo. Especially with all the homies around Totoland. I was going to die that day if it wasn't for, she omitted the name of her brother, Katakuri. The one who saved her life and sacrificed his own. If a mention of his name was heard by the homies, Mama will rage. I know, Pudding. I know. Tears erupted from the three-eyed girl and Chiffon engulfed her in an embrace. Lola swiftly took the young child from her hand as to avoid getting the baby in between the tight embrace. What is this? Who made my sweet sister cry? A tall, purple-haired swordsman entered the palace. He found that Pudding was crying and embraced her along with Chiffon. Brother Cracker, I'm sorry you found me this way, she began as she sniffled. Nonsense, was it the memory once more? Charlotte Cracker looked at Lola who nodded. Ah. Well, some good news. Brother Oven and Brother Daifuku will listen to us. Sister Smoothie will say she is a firm no but she will be present. Once we get the support of those three, everyone should see what we see. How about Brother Perispero? To this Cracker shook his head. There's no way to even bring it up to Brother Perispero, he is embroiled in his quest for power. Right, well I must go. I have a date, said Chiffon with lightness in her step. She took the young baby from Lola and gave her a kiss on the cheeks. You be good, called Pudding after her sister. To which Chiffon chuckled and blew a kiss to her sister. Chiffon then enlarged the mirror and entered through the doorway, with the young child in her arms. Baby. A gruff-looking man met Chiffon on the other side of the mirror transport. Hi you. Chiffon embraced the man. And the man took the baby from his lovely wife. How are you, baby Pez? Dada, said the young baby smiling at his father. Ah, Big. He called for you. The two happy parents shared an embrace as their young baby laughed happily at his parents' affection. Back on the other side of the mirror, Lola embraced Pudding once more. Are you ready for your wedding? Asked Lola. I'm ready to meet this Mr. Prince. Who knows, maybe he'll make an excellent scapegoat. For I am ready to ruin Mama's tea party. The third eye of the young lady flared up. For the young lady had been brewing up this plan ever since the day her mother nearly killed her. Pudding was going to kill her own mother. Straw Hat HQ, Area X. Sanji sneezed as he swiftly made his way to the stand as it was time for the matches of the night. Gee ha ha ha, finally Mugiwara, I get to see what you are about. Shiki floated in the air, where Luffy noted that he had both legs. How would that change his levitation ability? Sure Shiki. Whatever you want. Luffy stretched his muscle, he has yet to use his full power since returning. Magellan was a nice warm-up and all but Shiki was above the former warden. Speaking of Magellan, he currently hung out with the other members of the Straw Hats, watching the fight. He wondered why he was free to roam the base without being bound. But Luffy kept him free because there was no way Magellan woke Katakuri and Mihawk. Get ready. Their battlefield was a wasteland, mostly rocks, which was advantageous for Shiki. Luffy made it this way, he gave him a slight handicap. Whenever you are, Luffy said confidently as he posed into his fighting stance. His left fist was behind his right and his left foot was behind his right. Shiki floated in the air, covering his surroundings with rock. His ability allowed him to levitate inorganic objects in his surroundings, making him one of the most dangerous people in the world. Even Roger and Whitebeard acknowledge his strength. The rock which surrounded Shiki launched at Luffy at a high speed. Though the Straw Hat Man was faster, dodging the rocks with ease. Luffy slapped the rocks which were aimed at his face and destroyed them. Shiki got in his face, appearing in a matter of seconds. He built up enough concentration of rock on one hand and slammed it against the Straw Hat Man. But he was not there, as a mere after-image was destroyed by Shiki's giant boulder. The golden-haired man raised an eyebrow, though he felt a sharp pain on his ribs as Luffy appeared behind him, kicking him on his side. The golden lion was sent tumbling down the battlefield, his momentum stopping at the use of his ability. Shiki floated once more and grunted, as blood escaped his mouth. Though Luffy was not done yet, as he appeared before Shiki, much faster than the last time. Maybe my old age was finally catching up to me, was his thought before a barrage of giant-sized fists connected with Shiki, bombarding him onto the ground. In the control room, Frankie was panicking at the sensors being overloaded by the Straw Hat Captain. His power was beyond their calculation, an anomaly. Then the sensor exploded as Luffy delivered a blow straight to the guts of Shiki, etching him on the ground and breaking through the thick shell of Area X. Above ground, people felt a sudden quake, although it was sort of like a jolt, then it was gone. Gah! You got me! Luffy extended his hands at the fallen warrior, helping him to his feet. Now there is no doubt in my mind, you will be king. Some people approached the Golden Lion so that they could help him get to the medic bay. But Shiki declined the assistance, as his pride made him walk on his own. It was now Burndy's turn and the man raised his hands. I surrender, I know the outcome and I'd rather not get hurt. Burndy took a step back and allowed Bullet to finally have his test. Finally. Bullet stepped up, his blood boiling for the intense battle between Luffy and Shiki. Bullet began by assembling mechanical gloves, both of which he immediately threw at Luffy. Though Luffy dodged both strikes, throwing his own uppercut, hitting Bullet square on his jaws. But the man was made like a tank, accepting the punishment which Luffy delivered. The funny thing was, the two men exchanged strikes. No longer did Bullet think of relying on his devil fruit. This was a battle between men, a battle of the fist. Even if it was Bullet's domain, ultimately, Bullet was down on one knee, Luffy standing over him. Sure, Bullet didn't have access to his full arsenal, but for the young man to beat him, this was an embarrassment. Alright. You win. Said Bullet, finally accepted that Luffy was indeed going to be king. His aura reminded me of him, of Gold D. Roger. No, if Bullet was to compare, Luffy's aura was much stronger than even that of the late Pirate King. People began to filter out, buzzing over the new supreme captain of the Straw Hat Grand Armada. Kuro was beyond impressed. His mouth remained hanging from the event. Keep it open some more and you'll catch some flies, commented Galdino from beside him, to which Senor Pink laughed. This was indeed an impressive showing, so this is the man that killed Doflamingo, said Senor Pink as he joined the rest in leaving the area. Wow, this makes me want to spar, Jin said as he tightly grasped his tofa, shaking from excitement. Another man overheard him and took him up for it. Let's go then, Jin, we'll see if you learn anything from last time. Roronoa Zoro took him up for his challenge, as he too was inspired by the captain's showing. He is still the same man that rallied us all those years ago. Shiro was walking beside Caesar, who was still in shock at what he saw. That was amazing. A similar thought echoed throughout members of the Straw Hat Pirates. Until the last person to leave the stand was Magellan, who stood up on his feet, and Luffy looked directly at him. The Straw Hat Captain walked up to him. Magellan. That was impressive, said the former warden, paying close attention to what other people said about Luffy. But why am I here? Like I told you before, if you would have stayed and impelled down, you would be dead. You're no use to me dead. Why would you save me? I like a person like you, Magellan, hardworking yet misunderstood. I think you'll make an amazing addition to my armada. It is not that simple. Oh, but it is. Luffy began making his way to the exitway of Area X, where Hancock was waiting for him with a towel, and Robin with water. Welcome to the Straw Hat Grand Armada, Magellan. Now it was time to contact some people, restructure his crew, and select which Yonko to go after first. Oh yes, he'll absorb them, or go right through them. Whitebeard, Kaido, Blackbeard, Big Mom, and Red-Haired. Better be ready because I am back. World Economy News. Sir, a news reporter yelled on the top of his lungs. It was the 50th time that Morgans was bothered that day as he furiously wrote about his latest headline. He knew he bet on the right man, so how was he alive? The thought of the story made him shake in excitement. A pink envelope hung at the end of his messy desk as pages and pages of his handwriting fell all over his desk. He had to get this story out, no matter the cause, for the man of the hour was back, seemingly from the dead. Images of a war from 9 years ago flooded his desk. Only the best angles were chosen to be in his masterpiece. Yes. He has obsessed with his project for days, ever since learning of Mugiwara's return. He brought his manuscript up to reread his work of art, his best work yet. Mugiwara, the Yonko 9 years ago on the end of a world-shattering war. One man stood tall above another. Edward Newgate was dubbed victorious against Monkey D. Luffy. Marine Admiral Aokiji was the man credited with the end of Mugiwara's life. But this was not the case. Mugiwara is very much alive, and the proof is in the paper. Who was the mysterious group that could go into Impel Down and break out the commanders of Mugiwara? The man himself? Underneath was an image of Luffy standing over Whitebeard from 9 years ago. Photographic evidence of the Enland War. He is the man who brought Whitebeard to his knees. With his own 2 hands, he defeated the world's strongest man, the man closest to the One Piece. And it does not end there, for the Straw Hat Man not only won over Whitebeard, he also achieved feats that are unheard of until now. He has defeated the likes of Admiral Kizaru and Admiral Zephyr. He made a mockery of a secret government agent such as Cypher Pole, and pulled in their agents to his cause. He successfully entered Big Mom's territory and escaped with her family members. Dogtooth has since become an emperor in his own right, and now that True King is back, can you imagine? He challenged Kaido's influence by eliminating members of his business, making a dent of the hidden world of the underground. Yes, the underground. For this and his future endeavors, the Marines have reactivated his bounty, where it had been forgotten. And the Marines, the government, the Gorosei, and the Yonkos should tremble in their boots, as the man known as Mugiwara is back, and his bounty was raised exponentially, to 5,021,000,000 Barris, a bounty just below the Pirate King, and above the one who is dubbed as the strongest. Monkey D. Luffy is the true king of this world. The paper was filled with articles about the Enland War, attached with photographic evidence of the event that transpired. More importantly, an image of Blackbeard, stabbing Thatch in the back, a grape on his hands. Morgans trembled as he read over his masterpiece. With this report, he truly was asking for death. But the world needs to know the truth, the man who will liberate them from the old system. The man he put his money on to free them of the celestial dragons, 5 elders, and the throneless king. It will definitely cause him his life, but he's lived long enough anyway. He read it over one more time before publishing it, ignoring editor's advice on not going through with it. Too late now, he said to himself as he opened 100-year-old whiskey, pouring himself a glass as he awaited his fate. In no time, the government, the underworld, or even the Yonkos could come for his head, and he won't go down without a fight. He lit a cigarette and took a deep breath, the sound of footsteps quickly approaching his office. Today I die. Morgans got on both feet and put his hands up. Come then. Straw Hat HQ, Captain, Shiki, and Burndy are gone, exclaimed Virgo, whose usual calm demeanor was overshadowed by his worries. 2 world powers have gone and left without a word or trace. Oh yeah, I know, they left 2 nights ago. Luffy was giving Hancock a massage on her back, as she laid on a massage table, with only a towel hiding her skin. Oh well. Virgo began to walk back, his panic replaced by relief. How did he know? Oh yeah, he was the Supreme Commander, of course he would. We'll be up in a moment, we have guests. What do you mean, Captain? Shiki and Burndy have returned. Luffy said with a smile, to which Virgo slowly made his way up, to the entranceway, where sure enough Burndy and Shiki returned with people. You best behave, Indigo, especially you, Scarlet, Shiki said as he floated along his companion. The clown genius gave a thumbs up while Scarlet hit his chest as he puffed it. Brother, this is my new home. How do you like it? Burndy brought 4 people with him. His sickly brother rode his shoulder and looked around, impressed by the underground headquarters. Impressive, brother, commented Bojack. Another 3 people were with the 2 brothers. Gairam, a hulking man with a massive hammer, Knighton, an elderly doctor, and Sebastian, the Woden giant. Welcome. Luffy ascended from his moment with Hancock and welcomed the newcomers along. Hey, how do you know we weren't abandoning ship? Said Shiki. They did leave without telling anyone. I just know. Luffy said with a smile. Law and Bonnie joined the group as the 2 were very important for his operation. So listen, for your brother we have the best doctor in all the lands. He was addressing Burndy, whose brother was very sickly. We can find a way to increase his muscle strength, and a quick path to recovery. I don't. Bojack was very shocked. No way, doctors all over the world have been trying. Please, and Knighton, you may join our medical staff. I'm sure you have a lot of practice that we can use. To this Knighton was confused. How did he know her name already? Thank you, Captain, said Burndy, acknowledging that Luffy was indeed his captain. As for you, Indigo, our research division is top-notch. Frankie will show you around. Scarlet and Sebastian. I have something for the both of you, but in the meantime, Virgo will show you around. This left Luffy, along with Law and Bonnie. Shiki and Burndy remained as well as everyone began to disperse. I have a proposition for the both of you. What if I say we can get you back to your prime? Said Luffy. Law had his arm crossed with a smile, while Bonnie continued to eat her food. Shiki and Burndy looked at one another and smiled. There's no way. But there is. Bullet showed up, looking younger than before, for the Straw Hats have made him younger and returned him to his 30s, his prime. Oh shit. Shiki and Burndy said at the same time. Baltigo, a certain death caused him to awoke from his slumber. He was enraged when he discovered that his brother was killed, and he wasn't there to help him. The first thing that Sabo did was to find Ace. He stormed angrily away from Baltigo. His intense training while having amnesia was paying its dividends. Sabo, screamed Dragon, although the child was long gone. Dragon tasked Hack to follow the young man. Eventually, Sabo found Ace. What are you doing here? You died? Asked the confused Fire Fist as he believed himself to be alone in the world. Although Sabo immediately embraced his brother and Ace immediately understood. The two shared a moment, reminiscing about their older brother, the man who appeared in their life for only a moment, yet left a lasting impression on their lives. So what have you been up to? As the duo let out their initial grief, they finally began to catch up. I'm a captain of my own crew now. Those pesky Marines are really something else. And I am eventually going to aim for the New World. Commented Ace as he drank all of his alcohol, grabbing another bottle. You died? Ace commented, remembering the devastating visual of Sabo's tiny ship bursting into flames, the wrath of a celestial dragon, raining upon him. I was saved by his dad, Dragon, the most wanted man? Yeah. The two traded stories of their life, until finally, morning came. So we should head out now. Ace began to make his way outside of the cabin, muscle from the long night of drinking and storytelling. You're going to like Deuce, that guy is funny as hell. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention Asuka. That crazy marine lady has it out for me. But Sabo lagged behind, stopping in his footsteps. Actually Ace, I think I'll return to Baltigo. What? But we just reunited, exclaimed Ace. I know bro, and I think we'll get to reunite once again. But I have a lot to learn from Dragon, and I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity. It took a moment for Ace to accept it. He did not like it, but he was not going to force Sabo into anything. Till we meet again. Ace finally turned his sadness into a smile. He had to respect his brother's decision. Till we meet again, brother. Sabo embraced Ace and the two brothers parted ways. They were not bonded by blood, but in their hearts, they were truly brothers. Sabo scratched his head as he did not know how to go back to Baltigo. Luckily Hack followed him. Ready to go home, brat? Hack asked. Yeah. Responded the young Sabo with a smile. The next time he sees Ace again, he will be much stronger. Enough so that he does not have to lose another brother. 1 million. Sabo had just completed 1,000,000 push-ups. This was a part of his daily routine. Koala, Hack and Ivikov cheered on the young man. Once he completed his push-ups, Koala ran up to him and handed him a towel. Good job. Koala lovingly pinched Sabo's cheeks as he playfully swatted her hands away. Ivankov and Hack looked at each other with a knowing smile. What? We're just friends. Sabo said with a smile as Koala gave him a punch on his shoulder. Ow. Ow is still sore. Sabo laughed, the two leaving the training field. Ivankov and Hack remained as they laughed in spite of themselves. That's got to be a thing. Hack commented. Yeah, Hack boy. They've grown up together that it would be a surprise if they weren't. But knowing Sabo boy, that young man is blind to women. Probably pumped up about the news of Luffy boy's return. Breaking out of his people from Impel Down, what a feat. The two made their way to the meeting hall, where Dragon resided. Reverie was happening this year, and they had a couple of months to finalize their plans. Yes, that Blackbeard boy was the one to break me out of my bindings 4 years ago. I still remember the day. Ivankov, why don't you join us? Asked the menacing New World Emperor. Fuck you. I'll pass, zihahaha. With that, Blackbeard left impelled down, a sea of destruction in his wake. Blackbeard successfully broke out many level 6 prisoners. In doing so, he freed some prisoners from their bindings as well, including Ivankov. Well, if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't be with us. Hack was going to say something else but was interrupted by the sudden shaking of the floor they stood on. They looked at one another as the rhythmic thumping was similar to footsteps. A green-haired, tan woman was running in their general direction at full speed. And right before their eyes, the giant woman shrunk periodically as she got closer, until finally, she fell flat on her face in front of them. She was the size of an average person and she was panting heavily from all the running that she had been doing. Sabo and Koala returned to the area to see what was going on. People from all over the secret revolutionary base peeked through their facilities, and Dragon stood over his balcony. Please help me. She shook violently from exhaustion as she had been on the run for days, no food, no drink, just running. What do you need help me, dear? Ivankov immediately jumped to aid the young girl, as he was not one to turn down a person in need. My friends, they are. She struggled for the words, Blackbeard has them. In Hachinosu, suddenly Dragon's eyes widened as the location of Blackbeard was revealed. Finally, something they can work with. The Yonko was in their radar for countless reasons, more importantly slavery, kidnapping and oppression. He was bad, if not just as bad as the celestial dragons in how they treat people. Dragon lifted himself in a swirl of wind, appearing before the faint lily. We can help you, said Dragon. In a few days, the revolutionary leaders are going to start flocking in, and their manpower is not one to ignore. But to be clear, you know how to get to Hachinosu. Lily and Stomach pulled a Vivre card from her back pocket. It was named Haruden. Yes. And Lily finally passed out, unable to remain awake. Dragon raised up the Vivre card. It was burning slightly. Sabo took the card from Dragon and the two shared a look. Sabo was the one to speak. This giant is Brother Luffy's commander, from 9 years ago. I know, responded Dragon. This would go a long way of mending things with his son, and it aligned with his motive of operations. Things just got more interesting. Atlantis. This is unbelievable. You read this, Hatchin? Arlong was jumping with joy. He had been hard at work in protecting his nation that he had been unable to leave his land. Ever since the creation of Atlantis Island, there have been 0 fish folk slaves caught by the slavers. That was due to Arlong. He, along with his crew, eliminated any and all slaver that tried. Never again, not on his watch. Though this news was different, the return of his king was evident and he wanted so badly to join his people. But how could he leave his nation? With the lack of protection, his people could suffer once more. Then he thought of a brilliant idea. Pirates, slavers and marines feared him. He was the strongest man on the planet. It even says so in the newspaper. So now that he's returned, then it was time to declare their absolute loyalty to the Straw Hats. King Neptune, Queen Otahime, we are going to join the Straw Hats once more. I wish to raise their flag on our island, signifying their protection of Atlantis. Arlong, you have sacrificed so much by staying here for so long. Go. You must go to where your heart belongs, said Queen Otahime with a smile. King Neptune agreed, as he knew quite well the sacrifices that Arlong had to make, the relationship he's broken, the people he disappointed for his people. Are you sure? I can always— No, Arlong, we can protect ourselves. That old fisher tiger can protect us, plus the Straw Hats will always come to our aid, said King Neptune. Ready your ships, Arlong. You have a long journey ahead of you. Thank you. Arlong retrieved from the castle of Atlantis, rejoining his crew. On his way back, Princess Shirahoshi waved him goodbye, to which he returned. Once he was back to his crew, he gave them the good news. After 9 years, we're going home, boys. Yeah? Yelled the crew on the top of their lungs. It has been a long time since they have seen everyone. Alabasta. We believe that Fishman Island should join the surface. The petition is there, so your nation is welcome to the surface in my books. King Riku added to the meeting. To which the other kings and queens echoed his statement. Blah blah, fish people this, fish people that. A stout man who had been arrogant and disrespectful throughout the entirety of the meeting commented. Who gives a crap? When are we getting more funding in our nations? That's all I care about. This was Wapol who spoke, and the young Princess Vivi quickly interrupted him. I agree about the funding for our nations, it will go a long way for our citizens. Although Wapol did not think that a mere princess should speak during the meeting. So he slowly approached her and slapped her straight across the face. How dare you speak during the meeting of kings and queens? Yelled Wapol. Lucci was present, an escort of the Dressrosa party. Beside him were Pika and Kairos, and escorted King Riku and Princess Viola. Princess Vivi raised her hands, as Pell and Lucci were going to kill the false king. Do not do anything on my behalf. She raised her head slowly. He is not a man worth our troubles, she responded with a smile. A true diplomat. Although in the back, Lucci was seething. How dare he strike Captain's fiancée? The tragedy was street and so he still did not accept Luffy to be dead. Some time passed and Wapol was casually walking through the streets of Marijo, kicking any slaves that blocked his path and mocking everyone and everything he saw. Disgusting, a reverie full of fish-loving idiots. I want my money, how am I going to afford my new ship? Wapol said out loud, to which his group flinched. They did not like his behavior, but they had to follow his orders, he was their king. Mugiwara sends his regards. Suddenly, Lucci appeared before Wapol, his hands going through the heart of the false king. On the other side of Wapol's body, his heart hung out and Lucci pulled back, Wapol's heart still beating and he crushed it. Alarms suddenly flared up all over the Holy Land, as a king was assassinated. Lucci escaped skillfully, although he was hunted by the world government ever since. Oh my god. A blue-haired beautiful princess held a newspaper on hand, trembling at the news. For all her young life, she imagined running away with her knight in shining armor, living the rest of her life under his care. But that dream turned into a nightmare when he died and she never considered anyone else. Princess. What is wrong? Pell immediately ran into the room as she heard the princess crying. I'm okay, Pell, I'm okay. But I must see him. Princess, we can't just leave the capital. Why not? My father will understand, after all, I'm going to see my king. Princess Vivi immediately gathered her traveling clothes, for it was going to be a journey to New Dawn Island, and she needs to prepare for what's ahead of her. It was a promise to a young girl, of a man who saved her nation's life. Will he keep his word or did he forget about her? The thought of being forgotten caused her to drop everything she was holding. Her once confident composure has shifted to nervousness. What if he forgot her? Dressrosa. No. Viola dropped her cup, spilling everything on the marble tiles. She had been having breakfast but the morning newspaper caused her to drop everything she was holding. She had been the perfect princess for her nation, helping her people and her nation prosper. She even opened a trade between the new nation of Atlantis with Dressrosa as she knew the people well. For years she has been denying approaches for her hand, for years she has trained Rebecca to be her very best, but she never took on another man. But here he was, back from the dead and she did not know how to feel. I must know. I must. Viola shot up. Pika. It took a short moment for the head of security to join her. His squeaky voice remained the same as it always was. Yes, Princess Viola? I will travel to New Dawn Island. Relay this information to head soldier Kairos, and assemble an escort. Yes, Princess. On it. Pika comically saluted and ran the opposite direction. She had to know, especially if the feelings were still there, for him though more importantly for herself. Punk Island, previously Punk Hazard. You must leave this place now. A red-haired man stood in the office of Tom. Iceberg and Polly stood close to the head shipwright, as if they could do much. Why should we listen to you, red-haired Shanks? Tom knew who Shanks was, for he was just a little guppy when Roger asked him to build him a ship. I know of Pluton, and I have given my knowledge to the world government. Why the fuck would you do this? Tom slammed his hands against his table, effectively making a dent on his atom wood table. To achieve such a feat, Tom was no joke. Listen, Tom, if I did not give them something, they were going to go after him. By him, Shanks means Luffy. But Tom already knew this, as he met the man in person. Fine. But still stupid. Tom sat down once more on his chair. Iceberg and Polly exchanged a look of confusion. What now then, brat? Tom's mood immediately turned sour. As Pluton was within his vault, but the only people who knew were in Roger's crew. You have to all leave this place immediately, as the Marines and their buster call will arrive in a matter of days. Some bet you made, for that boy is dead, so when they come and Pluton is not here. That's the thing, you will leave it here. What did you say, boy? Once again Tom began to flare up in anger. This damn brat was going to willingly hand over Pluton to the world government? Tom, listen. Shanks activated his Conqueror's Haki, causing Iceberg and Polly to fall flat on their face. He's not dead yet, he'll be back. I promise. Shanks brought out his hands asking for the blueprint. Tom stared into the eyes of the red-haired emperor. He then finally gave in, opening his safe and giving Shanks the blueprint. Tell me, Tom, is there a way that we can? Tom's eyes widened at what Shanks told him. I see, responded Tom as he took the blueprint once more. And the memory faded as the people of Water 7 began to filter out. There was not a single life that remained in Water 7 when the world government annihilated it. Surprising them, the blueprint for Pluton lay perfectly on the drawer within's office. They took it, claiming the victory against the people of Water 7, with Pluton now in their hands. Tom stood on the balcony of his new home. For 8 years the shipwrights of Water 7 have silently rebuilt their prosperous shipbuilding land in a new world island known as Punk Island. Old man, yelled Polly from below his balcony. What brat, yelled Tom back. There's some pirates who want to speak with you. Who is it? Hey, you must be the famous Tom. A red-haired pirate with a thick overcoat stood beside Polly, smiling at the shipwright. I need ships. Oh, why is that? I need to kill some emperors. For in the new world, you either kill them, or you join them. And I'm not one to work under these stupid fuck faces. The red-haired pirate turned to his companion, a man with a blue mask. Ain't that right, killer? To which his companion nodded. This man was none other than Eustace Kid, the 800 million berry man. How many ships do you need? Tom asked, now jumping over his balcony and landing in front of Tom. Kid looked at his crew, the commanders of his fleet laughing amongst themselves. He pointed at each one as to count. Give me 9, I already have my own ship. Payment? Tom looked over his crew and the numbers which he possessed. This brat could make a dent with his power. A green-haired pirate approached Tom, throwing a treasure chest full of gold in front of Tom. Is this enough? The guy had a maniacal look on his face, and his attire was unorthodox. He had a weird look about him, almost as if he was always looking for a fight. Tom surveyed the treasure and found blood on it. Regardless, he had a duty to uphold. Pirate or not, he was a shipwright. The money was there, no matter how it was obtained. The green-haired man continued to stare down Tom. But Ptolemy, back off. All right. Somehow, someway, the former #1 fan of Straw Hat Luffy became a captain in one of Kid's ships. Hey fellows, we're getting ships. I want the biggest one out of you fuckers, exclaimed Bartolomeo as he went back to the others. Okay, replied Tom. We'll get your ships in a week. Make it 2 days, we got a meeting with a warlord. Kid threw another treasure chest in front of Tom. Fine too. And the two men shook hands. Fuck you, Bartolomeo. A black-haired, sinister-looking man began to chase the green-haired pirate around, as a single booger started their feud. Hee ha ha ha, stupid ass, he exclaimed as he ran away from the mud that rained on him. Enough with this, I must focus. I need to determine the outcome of the coming encounter. Another person said as he shuffled a deck of cards. Scraw, pop, pop, some cool rock, another figure exclaimed animatedly. Calm down you dipshits. We got more serious business to attend to. Everyone straightened up, listening in on their captain. From Bartolomeo, to the mud-slinging weirdo, from the card-dealing man, to the music guy. The other members straightened up as well, stopping their snickering. You fuckers BN, we meet up with this warlord. This alliance will go a long way with the plan of attack against the Yonkos. I'm going to make her bend on her knees to me, Captain Kidd. His crew cheered him on. Heat and Wire smiled at their captain's plan of attack, although Killer had his arms crossed. What is it, man? A boxing glove-wearing man, beside a much taller and bulkier man, nudged Killer. Killer raised his scythe, revealing the article of a certain Straw Hat man. Kid ripped it out of the paper from Killer's blade and looked it over. But Kid just crumpled it and tossed it to the side, only for heat to burn it into ash. Doesn't change anything, we're going after the Yonkos. And his crew cheered. They had hundreds of people, 8 formidable captains, and himself at the top. It was time for the Kid fleet to rise, It was his time to shine, Sphinx. You see this, Pops? Whitebeard was laying on his back, enjoying the sun. It had been such a stressful year, especially with that damned Weevil after his children. Damn you, Bakken. Marco walked casually to where Whitebeard was resting. They were now the same age since Luffy had him changed to his younger self, and it still freaked out Marco. What is it, son? Whitebeard sat up and took the paper from Marco, the image of his defeat in Enland plastered against the front page. Ah, look at that. I did not know Morgans had an image of this war. But what good is publishing this image? Whitebeard asks, failing to read the rest of the article. Marco pointed at the paper, for Whitebeard to read some more. Ah, okay, fine. Mugiwara is back, and his bounty was raised exponentially, to 5,021,000,000 Barris. A bounty just below the Pirate King, and above the one who is dubbed as the strongest. Monkey D. Luffy is the true king of this world. Whitebeard read out loud and jumped to his feet. Gurarara. That damned brat was actually alive. I Pops. Alright then, get the Moby ready. We are paying the Straw Hats a visit, exclaimed the Yonko, although he hasn't felt like one since his defeat at the hands of Luffy. But people dubbed him as such, so he had to act his part. We have to make up for lost time. 9 years I have been waiting to exchange sake with Mugiwara. So Pops, are we really doing what you told me all those years ago? He is the one, Marco, his eyes never wavering, backing up his resolve. Right, Pops. Marco said with a smile, although their father and son moment was quickly interrupted by the sound of alarm. For in the distance, a screech of terror erupted. Whitebeard and Marco shared a look. This was not normal. Who would be foolish to attack Sphinx? Was it Weevil? If so, he was going to die. Go Marco. An explosion filled the air as the after impact was enough to destroy the Moby. Marco nodded and flew in the air, turning into a phoenix within an instant. Whitebeard grabbed his Bacento and immediately went into action. Although what he saw made him freeze for only a moment, for before him a massive floating ship launched a light beam straight through Marco, knocking him out of the air. What the hell? Exclaimed Whitebeard as around him light beams escaped the massive ship, eradicating any and all of the people of his island. Fuck. Marco was sent through several buildings, finally slowing down as he went through a deli. What is going on? Jozu had gone outside and realized all hell's breaking loose. Whitebeard immediately went into action, despite not knowing what was going on. All he knew was that a giant thing was in the air and shooting power beams straight through his island. He leapt into the air, punching in the general direction of the massive ship. Crackles in the air began to form as Whitebeard launched a quake-infused punch through the monstrosity. Though in the path of his own quake, 2 pacifistas absorbed the strike and was shattered into a million pieces. Whitebeard's eyes widened as hundreds of pacifistas emerged from the massive ship and began to descend on his land. The cyborgs unleashed a hell fury in their world that they have never experienced, not in their lifetime. All around him there was pain and suffering. Pops, help me, screamed one of his daughters. Pops, said another one of his son. Their pain was echoing in the air and all he could do was fight for them, for their lost and sacrifice. He could not save everyone, that much he knows. This may be the end for Sphinx, the end of the Whitebeard pirates. Newgate launched himself upwards once more, with his entire crew fighting for their life. There was no time to rest. The damn monstrosity of a ship floated completely over his island and there was nothing he could do to even dent it. It was hopeless and yet he had to fight. Though a beam of energy was struck him head-on, launching him straight to the ground. And it did not stop at that either as it continued to force him lower and lower into the earth. Gah! Whitebeard forced himself to his feet, struggling at his attempt to do so. But he was able to get up on his feet, absorbing the beam with his hockey-infused forearm. As the strike finally ended, Whitebeard was finally able to launch his own attack. Whitebeard brought both hands outward, grabbing on the air and pulling it together. Crackles in the air cause a quake to erupt, unleashing the ground to violently collide and erect a massive stone pillar. While performing his powerful move, all he could think of was the safety of his people. And yet he could not keep up, as the pacifistas were wreaking havoc. The ship was destroying everything. Then as his spike erected towards the ship, a powerful blast erupted once more from the ship, decimating the stone pillar into dust. In fact, the blast was so strong that a hole was now created in the center of his island. where the spike used to be. Whitebeard cursed as the charge time for the damned beam was so quick that it could annihilate his island in a matter of minutes. His mouth hung agape as he looked to his right. His people were being massacred. Then to his left he looked directly into the eyes of Blenheim as he met his end at the hands of two pacifistas. Even his commanders were no match. Marco was doing his best, Vista and Jozu were doing what they could. This was truly the end. So Whitebeard gripped his Bacento and unleashed hell on earth, launching quake-infused bubbles straight to the core of the pacifistas. Just on his rampage alone, he managed to eliminate 50, but they kept coming and coming. "Ah!" yelled Whitebeard, cursing the world for his faith. And yet, as he looked up, the ship which had been causing total annihilation was exploding. The ship itself stopped moving and its mechanical integrity was all shut down. Then a massive nail zoomed past him and collided with the core of the ship. The Yonko was too shocked to move a muscle. As a pacifista got near him, its beam-mouth projectile ready to fire, and yet it never got to launch its projectile. A man whose skin glowed pink punched the pacifista out of the way, smashing its metallic skull into itself. "We got here as quickly as we can," commented the man, for Whitebeard turned around and realized that several doorways and mirrors were created, with people coming through. The Straw Hat Grand Armada came to their aid. "Long time no see, old friend," said Monkey D. Luffy, and just as fate would have it, Newgate recognized Douglas Bullet manipulating the mechanical integrity of the massive ship. Shiki, the Golden Lion, had suspended the monstrosity in thin air. Then Burndy World unleashed a flurry of driver nails at the ship. "Mugiwara, how?" began Whitebeard. "We'll talk later, we have something to attend to." Luffy engulfed himself in smoke, quickly emerging into his boundman form. He then launched himself forward, going towards the massive ship. Whitebeard smiled, finally realizing that the God of Dead does not require his presence quite yet. And he leapt after the man who returned from the dead, and enjoyed the utter destruction of the object that caused him so much pain. Marco had destroyed two pacifistas, burning them to puddles of metal. Although his charging period to launch his devastating blue flame ended up being his shortcoming, as 4 more pacifistas launched themselves at him. Marco gathered all of his strength inwards. He was going to self-destruct as a last-ditch effort to destroy as many of the bastards as he could. "The hell are you doing?" The voice was a familiar one, someone who he fought against many years ago. Dogtooth had emerged beside him, unleashing spiked mochi out of his body and piercing the tough exterior of the pacifistas. "Aren't you late?" Marco joked as he was helped up to his feet. "HN." Katakuri shrugged while going forward, destroying another pacifista with his hammer arm made of mochi. "As cocky as ever, Dogtooth," said Marco, though deep down, he was very thankful for the arrival of their allies. Even though 2 years ago, WH territory, they were unavailable for them. "Damn you." Jozu slammed 2 pacifistas' heads in and tackled another one and ripped it into pieces. But there were so many of them that it had become a hopeless situation. "Need some help?" A golden man sat along a pillar of gold, launching the other golden pillar straight through 2 pacifistas. "Get to work, Guild," commented the Thunder user as he shorted a couple of pacifistas out of their max voltage. And last to arrive was Mihawk, who cut through 8 pacifistas with one swing of his sword. "Jozu," greeted Mihawk. It had been some time. "Hawkeye." He acknowledged the swordsman and then the Golden Emperor and Thunder God, Guild, Enel. "You're lucky to have a quick thinker like Izo, of the Blazing Ember," said Mihawk as he launched a wave strike from the tip of his blade and dealt with another set of pacifistas. "If he did not call for help, where would you be now?" "I didn't think you all would come." Flower Sword, Vista stood back to back with Sir Crocodile as they worked in conjunction to deal with the pacifistas. "Tisk, you think too little of us." It was unspoken, but Crocodile hinted at his disappointment when the Whitebeard pirates were not present when they needed help. But let bygone be bygones. "Thank you." Vista unleashed a tornado of flowers. White Crocodile filled the pacifista with sand to the point that it imploded. "Whatever," Crocodile said with a smirk. It had been a while since he was able to let loose. It was nice to have some cyborgs to destroy and go all out. Around the battlefield, the Straw Hats were dealing with the pacifistas, while protecting Whitebeard's people. Haruta obtained the assistance of Usopp, Brook, and Galdino. Usopp gave them perfect coverage while Brook and Galdino dealt with those who got close. As a wave of pacifistas surrounded them, Magellan came in to melt the damned things. "You are the head jailer of Impel Down," said Haruta, recognizing him from the news report. "The breakout of Impel Down 4 years ago." Usopp covered them, unleashing a deadly combination of different plant life and explosive combinations. Galdino created a wall of wax that pushed the pacifista away from them, and Brook unleashed a cold strike through a pacifistas, freezing the cyborg and their core. But this Mugiwara guy is not so bad," said Magellan with a smile. "For a long time, he has not been happy. His job was redundant and draining. But with the Straw Hats, he could truly let loose. It also helped that his gastric issues were resolved by the doctors of the crew. When one doesn't need to shit all the time, that one person is truly happy." For how the doctors of the Straw Hat figured out how to counter the effect of his devil fruit, you would have to ask Chopper. Speaking of Chopper, he was in his horn point as he rammed straight through a pacifista. Then Law removed the core of the pacifistas within his area. Daz Bones and Virgo went through the cores and destroyed every single one of them. He quickly got to Blenheim and began resuscitating him. There was still hope for the fallen man, it was just very thin. Baby 5 and Wiper were a tandem. It seemed like there was something there. Wiper had Baby 5 turned into a tracking missile in which he launched her forward, unleashing a devastating blow at a pacifista. Atmos looked up as he was nearly squashed by said pacifista and gave them a thumbs up. Then Trebol and Bonclay worked against an enemy pacifista, with Trebol swallowing the pacifista in snot, slowing its mechanical movements, while Bonclay hit it so quickly that it was no longer functional. "Good job, Snotman," exclaimed Bonclay as he struck a pose. "Not so bad yourself, Bon-chan," and the two exchanged a spirited high five. Senor Pink and Dice went through an enemy. Senor Pink dragged a pacifista into the ground while swimming on it, while Dice rammed straight through the immobile pacifista. Baccarat, Macvis, and Ohm worked together to eliminate another. Macvis embraced the pacifista while Ohm cut its mechanical arms. Baccarat then launched a lucky rock through its core, shutting it down for good. Speed Jiru was finally able to plop down on his butt, as he had been so tired from constantly having to speed up against so many pacifistas. He was so glad they had reinforcements. "Excellent work if I do say so myself," commented Ohm as he placed his sword over his shoulder. Macvis nodded while Baccarat smiled at the job well done. Jin and Kuro combined together to destroy a pacifista. Kingdu was going to be at the receiving end of a light beam, but it could not release its beam as Kuro pinned it to the ground and Jin unleashed a flurry of strikes with his tofa. "I don't think we've met." Jin helped Kingdu to his feet. "I'm Jin, grumpy over there is Kuro." "HN," scoffed Kuro, ever so friendly. Zala, Satori and Tanaka were able to destroy another. Satori created spheres that limited the pacifista's movement, while Zala pinned its limbs with her spiked abilities so it could not activate its beam hands and mouth, and last was Tanaka, who went through it with his phasing ability, and pulling the core out of its chest. Blandeko had a smile on his face as he dropped his mallet, exhausted from the constant fighting. Lucky they had allies come to the rescue. Jabra used his wolf form to maul a pacifista with Kaku slicing it down. Bonnie could not do much as she could not turn the cyborgs into babies or old people, but she can fight. Plus she had the combined explosive energy of Gladius and Gem fighting alongside her. Namur was doing his best as he too would get overwhelmed, though lucky for him, Jinbei came to the rescue. And Jinbei was widely regarded as the second strongest of all the Fishman. Powerhouses such as Fisher Tiger and King Neptune have fallen down the ranking with age. Namur was glad to have Jinbei there by his side. The numbers of the pacifistas were numerous, and yet, the Straw Hats and the Whitebeard pirates eventually dwindled the numbers of the enemies by a handful. Hancock observed along with Robin in the corner of their eyes as Sanji kicked a pacifista straight to the sky, while Nami electrocuted another one with her weapon, and finished it with an air palm. Then Zoro cut up two pacifistas with his three-sword style, which impressed Shira and Gedatsu. Sugar and Monet watched the swordsman as well, also acknowledging his growth. The new recruits were too much in amazement to do much, as they did not have to really do anything. The former members of the World Pirate and Golden Lion Pirates looked at one another and finally realizing, that they are Straw Hat pirates now. Up in the sky, the world-shattering combination of Luffy's level 6 escaped prisoners in Burndee, Shiki and Bullet, Whitebeard the Yonko, and himself was a sight to behold. Whitebeard unleashed his frustration on the giant ship, as Shiki floated him to the deck. There were hundreds of pacifistas aboard, and yet the combined effort of Luffy and Whitebeard were enough to eliminate the pacifistas in mere instances. Luffy unleashed a flurry of his signature python with one strike destroying a pacifista in its path, while Whitebeard shattered the pacifista with his quake-infused Basento. He was not holding back either, as Luffy limited his aftershock by making the deck of the ship into rubber. Therefore minimum after effect, maximum the damage. Bullet joined in on the fun by assembling the fallen pacifista and made them go into the ship, destroying it from the inside. Though he used his good old-fashioned fist to annihilate any pacifistas that got close to him. "Newgate, I can't believe you lost to Mugiwara," exclaimed Shiki as he caused two pacifistas to slam into each other, destroying it. Keep in mind that Shiki still held the massive ship into suspension, unable to use its weapon to rain hell into Sphinx Island. "You lost to him, to our captain," added Burndee, to which Shiki tossed a rock at him. Instead of getting angry, Burndee instead redirected the rock and increased its size and tossed it against a pacifista. Barororo. "Oh, they have Whitebeard said as he tossed another quake-infused sphere towards three pacifistas. "Yeah, isn't that crazy?" Luffy delivered a jet stamp to the center of two more pacifistas. "And you made them young as well, huh? Excellent. What are you planning, Mugiwara?" "Well, going into Big Mom's territory and waging war on her, but this damned—" "I'm in," said Whitebeard with a smile. "Isn't this crazy, Newgate?" Bullet stood beside Whitebeard as he punched the neck out of a pacifista. "Gathering under Captain?" "Yeah, Bullet, the last time I've seen you tame, Rogers kicked your ass." "Kahahaha. Yeah, he was one strong bastard, but Captain, in my opinion, is stronger." "I agree," replied Whitebeard. "You guys talking crap?" asked Luffy in jest as he was now in bound man form, launching a King Kong gun at a pacifista. "Hell yeah!" exclaimed Bullet, as he sent another one flying, to which it was sent straight to the deck of the ship by Shiki. "We're talking mess, I'm in." Though the ship suddenly lost its integrity as it began to rapidly descend. Shiki directed it to the ocean water beside Sphinx, the side where a massive mountain would protect the island from the impending tsunami. But just in case. "Galdino, Katakuri, Guild, I need a wall on the mountain range. A tsunami is coming in." The trio heard their orders loud and clear and went to work. Zoro and Mihawk, stand by on any water that passes the wall. Though Luffy knew that Mihawk could deal with it by himself, he just wanted to see how far they've all gone. Sure enough, Galdino created a wax wall, Katakuri made a mochi wall, and Guild made a golden wall. Though Katakuri's wall was higher than the other two, so therefore it looked like it was flipping off someone. Excellent job. Whoever called in this damn strike. They now know how the pirates felt. A fitting imagery, really. The massive ship began its slow descent and crashed in the ocean. The impact caused a massive tsunami to make its way to Sphinx. The waves eventually crashed against the walls created by the Straw Hats, and those which were able to get through were cut into droplets by Mihawk and Zoro combined. "Impressive," commented Whitebeard as the group slowly descended into the ground, celebrating their massive victory against the destruction machine. "Marine HQ. They are all gone. Pluton is down," said Sentomaru, as all of the pacifistas he provided for the Gorosei were destroyed. Initially they were slowly being destroyed but quickly overwhelmed the Whitebeard pirates. Pluton was a magnificent weapon of mass destruction, able to level an island in a matter of minutes. All the feeds showed that they were succeeding, until their view was interrupted, which was followed by the rapid decline in operational pacifistas. Then, Pluton was down. Who would be able to do such a thing? It's Mu, Gi, Wara. Admiral Kizaru entered the viewing room and recognized his handiwork. He is the only man willing to aid Whitebeard, and would be successful in doing so. "That man is torn on our side. We must deal with him immediately," said Sentomaru. "Soon, nephew. Soon," said Admiral Kizaru with a smile. Ever since his embarrassing defeat at the hands of said man, he had improved his attitude. A perfect record since that day, as he had never failed a mission. A perfect 5,299 out of 5,299. He had been obsessed with killing pirates ever since that day, and he could not wait to get his hands on the Straw Hat Man. He just couldn't. No longer did he enforce unclear justice. His justice was now similar to Akainu, Fujitora and Zephyr. His justice was now absolute justice, all thanks to Mugiwara. Though in the circle of the most elite of the Marines, Mugiwara was on the top of their target list. Admiral Akainu, Admiral Zephyr, Admiral Fujitora and even the suspended Admiral Aokiji. Straw Hat HQ. Meanwhile, in the Straw Hat HQ, Zeph stood watch of their base as everyone was engaged in rescuing the Whitebeard pirates. "Hey old man, how's it going?" Sanji had just arrived from the portal, returning quickly as he needed to make a meal for the crew as soon as they returned. Plus the Whitebeard pirates were joining them for dinner. Though Zeph was not moving, acting all weird. "Vinsmoke Sanji, we require your presence for a wedding." Tamago, the knight of the Big Mom pirates, had infiltrated the Straw Hat HQ as the main forces were busy elsewhere. Accompanying him was Bobbin, who was the reason that many of the personnel that remained in the base were sleeping. Careless, it was carelessness that caused the surprise infiltration from the Big Mom pirates. "Nobody refuses Mama's invitation," said Bobbin as he continued to bob his head side to side. "I say fuck you, not interested," said Sanji, his feet blazing up as he spun to gain traction. "Then your entire family will die," said Tamago with a smile. Suddenly, Sanji dropped his cigarette and realized what he was saying. Sanji's family was going into the wedding party and they were going to be murdered in cold blood if he did not attend. Fine. Despite how they treated him, they were still his family, and he does not want to stoop into their level. Sanji began to follow them against his will. "Sanji, you don't." But Zeph fell asleep from the power of Bobbin. "Captain Will," he said drowsily before falling asleep. Sphinx calibrated the left arms, adjusting thrusters. Frankie called on his communicator. He was the last to arrive as he had to prepare his masterpiece. "You are clear, Iron Pirate Frankie Shogun," called Caesar on the other end of the line as he entered through a mirror portal at the same time as General Frankie. "Ready to tango." Frankie exited the doorway, complete in his mechanical masterpiece, ready to fight the weak beings that called themselves Cyborg. He looked around and then up. Suddenly his knees became weak as his mouth was wide open. General Frankie deactivated as Frankie hopped out of the robot. He then pointed at the sky, his massive mechanical arm trembling as he followed the ship. "Place. Plu. Plut," exclaimed Frankie as the massive destruction device began to crash into the ocean water. "What is it?" Caesar then looked up and finally realized what it was, and he too nearly shit his pants. How did it come to fruition? He could tell it was Pluton, for he saw the blueprint firsthand. Though his mentor, Tom, told him that a ship like this should never be created, for it could destroy an entire island without much effort. Is this why Water 7 was destroyed? Who got their hands on the blueprint? "Captain!" Frankie yelled as Luffy celebrated along Whitebeard, Shiki, Bullet and Burndee. "This is Pluton." Suddenly the mood changed as the participants in destroying the massive vessel were familiar with its name. "No," Luffy began as his joy turned into despair. "How? We need to go to Tom now." Luffy wanted some answers and he was going to get it. Straw Hat HQ. Luffy entered through the portal at the same time that Sanji was being taken away. He immediately recognized Tamago from his eggshell attire. He fucking said no, and Luffy covered the distance, slamming his fist against Bobbin's face. Tamago was caught off guard and he too received an axe kick straight through his skull. "Tell Big Mom that she can fuck off. I'll deal with her next." "Captain, they'll kill my family," said Sanji, torn at the prospect of saving the very people that made his youth a living hell. His sister is savable, but the rest of them were bastards. "Not on my watch, Sanji, not on my watch." It was then that the Straw Hats and Whitebeard pirates began to filter in. Jin and Caesar immediately apprehended the perpetrator. "No, let them go. Send a message to Big Mom for me." He then brought up his middle finger. "Tell her to go fuck herself."